Well, that's odd. I didn't hear the recording announcement, but we are.
I did hear it.
Something's weird with our Zoom account. Okay. So with that, it's 7:06. I call the meeting to order. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight to our virtual only meeting of ANC 34G. And we will get started with an introduction of commissioners. Commissioners, I'm going to go from my screen left to right, starting with Commissioner Fennessy.
Hi, Laura Fennessy, single member District 4. That's the area between Broad Branch and Utah, roughly around Lafayette Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Commissioner Gore. I'm the single member district commissioner for District 01, which is all of Hawthorne and portions of Barnaby Woods. Thanks for coming out tonight. Commissioner Nagy.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Thanks for coming out. I'm Liz Nagy, Commissioner in SMD 07, which is south of Military Road, over to Reno, down to Nevada, and bounded on the south by Chevy Chase Parkway.
And Commissioner Grunwald.
Yes, hi, I'm Carol Grunwald, Commissioner from ANC 34G03. I'm covering a broad swath of Chevy Chase from Broad Branch Road through 27th in Utah.
Commissioner Gosselin.
Hi, I'm Peter Gosselin. I represent District 6, which is largely the west side of Connecticut Avenue between Western and Military back to Friendship Heights. Thanks for coming.
Commissioner Fennessy, did you have a?
Yes. How do you want me, and at what point do you want me to offer the comments in the chat? Just like every 10 minutes or send them to you or what?
You can actually call it out like during an appropriate topic.
Okay.
Raise your hand. Yeah. So I'll try to remember to ask you for them.
Okay.
Commissioner Simmons.
Hi, Commissioner Simmons. I have the east side of Connecticut, so the opposite side of Peter Gosselin, all the way through to Broad Branch, Western, starting at Legation.
And Commissioner Sherman.
Good morning. Good evening, everybody.
No wonder you're late.
We may go until morning, but not yet. I'm Bruce Sherman. I'm the commissioner for District 2, which is from St. John's College High School up to Chatsworth, over on the easternmost side of our ANC. All
right. Thank you, everyone. Regarding meeting procedures, they're typically the same. We'll have 3 minutes for commissioner comments and community comments. I ask that everybody be respectful. If you need to ask the commission a question, you can use the react function, which is in the middle of your screen. And if you touch on that react function, there's a function there for raise hand. Commissioner Fennessy is monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions and you post them in the chat, she'll let us know so that we can get your questions addressed as well. Going into our next topic, commissioners, do you all have any changes to the agenda? I have one change. Commissioner Gosselin.
Chair Gore, you might just explain to people why we're virtual only.
I am, but I'm going to do that in the appropriate portion, I think, of the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda, commissioners? Commissioner Gosselin.
I hope we're going to have time for the lieutenant to talk. It turns out there are still more car break-ins this afternoon.
I'm going to amend the agenda. That's going to be my amendment.
That's fine.
Do we have any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, with that, I move that we adopt the agenda as amended to include a presentation at the top of the agenda by Lieutenant Olivier with MPD. Commissioners, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, 7-0. Thank you, commissioners. With that said, adoption of ANC meeting minutes. Well, Commissioner Nagy, Do you have 2 sets of minutes or 1 to approve?
Understand that question?
Do you have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve or 1? On
Just one, just one.
January 28th?
Oh, no, sorry, no, the 27th and the 29th. Now I
That's
understand.
what I thought. Okay.
Two
So-
different dates, 2 different sets of minutes to approve. Yes, thank you. Sorry, now I got it.
Let's go back to the amendment of the agenda, and I want to amend that motion to include the under adoption of ANC meeting minutes, the meeting minutes from January 29th, which are the special meetings. Commissioners, y'all understand? Because on the agenda, we only have adoption of the ANC meeting minutes for the 28th. We need to approve the 28th and the 29th.
It's actually, is it not the
thought it was-
27th and the 29th? I'm sorry.
27th and 29th.
I thought the special meeting was on Friday, the 31st.
No,
That's different.
That was the admin meeting. The meeting that we're talking about is the one where we voted on the
The zoning,
zoning thing, right?
okay.
Yeah, that was January 29.
Okay.
Means that the,
So in the agenda, we have the 28th. So I want to amend that to the 27th and also include the 29th. Is there a second?
second,
Second,
Okay. All those in favor, Commissioner, just say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that carries. Thank you so much. Sorry about that confusion. Okay, Commissioner Nagy, you can go ahead with the adoption of the ANC meeting minutes for those 2 dates.
okay, I move that we adopt the meeting minutes for January 27th and 29th. Do I have a second?
Second,
Discussion, Commissioner Simmons, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I want to have the 27th meeting minutes amended to include our requirement to provide our contractors with 1099s.
Point of order, that's not a decision, it's a statement.
Okay, so do I move to have the meeting minutes amended to include our requirement to provide our contractors with 1099s?
It's still not a,
So let me,
it's still not a decision, it's a requirement and a statement, and it's contained in the transcript, so it's on the record.
Yes,
let-
but I would like them in the meeting minutes. Yeah. Because we hired these individuals as contractors, they were approved. And so I would like them noted in the meeting minutes that. We have other items in the meeting minutes, so it's still commission business.
so let me say this, commissioners. 2 things. We're still in discussion, but if Commissioner Simmons wanted to amend that, 2 things could happen. She could offer Commissioner Nagy a friendly amendment to her motion. If Commissioner Nagy does not accept that, then Commissioner Simmons, your only recourse would be to offer an additional motion, but realizing Commissioner Nagy's motion is on the floor first. And right now, that's where the discussion is. I don't have any objection to the additional financial information going into the minutes. We do have other things in the minutes that don't include an action or a decision, including presentation information. So I'm agnostic. I do think it would be probably a best practice to put as much financial detail into the treasurer's report. And Commissioner Nagy, is there a way that you could maybe append the treasurer's report to the minutes?
No, it's not really part of the minutes. No, I don't think so. I don't think
How
that
would it-
complies with
I think
Robert's
my
Rules of
question is
Order.
why it's not a part of the minutes if
Because it
I
has to
spoke
comply
about
with
it.
Rules of Order.
But how is it not complying with the rules of order? It's related to the commission. It's something that
It's
we're
not-
required to do. It is related to the commission.
I'm
It's,
not
we
saying-
have
no.
contractors.
Yes, I understand we have contractors, but the fact that they need to get 1099s is not a decision of the commission. It's a requirement of law. It's not a decision that the commission is making, which is what Robert's rules are asking you
But
to
it
put.
is a requirement of the commission. We hired them. You have to provide your employees with 1099s.
I think you're missing the point, Commissioner Simmons. The point isn't whether you have to provide them with 1099s. The point is whether that fact needs to be included in the minutes.
So we have facts that's not related to the commission in the minutes. It's a part of my treasurer report. I'm not understanding how a sentence about
Well,
us providing 1099.
Let me interrupt you, commissioners, because I'm about to call the vote. The one thing I don't want us to do is expend a lot of time on this. This is an administrative decision. The fact of the matter is we could include that. We would not be violating the law, district code by including them because we are doing the bare
This is what I
minimum.
pinched you.
We're doing the bare minimum that Robert Rules of Order requires, which is to capture decisions and actions. It is not against or a violation of Robert's rules to include other details. That's the minimum requirement. So with that said, and I will say again, I do think it's probably a best practice with our financial information to capture as much detail as we could. But it is a decision of Commissioner Nagy. She's the secretary. So if, she doesn't want to put them in there, she doesn't have to. And if commissioners, you vote not to include them, then that's the way the commission will decide. So at this point, I'm going to call for the vote.
point of order, I'd like to say that Robert's rule, it is not in keeping with Robert's rules. Robert's rules specifically discourage adding additional details that are not decisions or actions. And this is something that is not a decision or an action. It's a requirement of law.
Okay, so
Easily
then we're going to have to
easily
start.
found in the record.
So then we're going to have to pull out everything in our minutes going forward that is not.
I
And
disagree. I disagree. Respectfully, I disagree.
so you disagree with not including presentations? Information on presentations? Community comments?
Well, that's a point.
Right.
But it's not the same. It is not the same. That's something that we base our decisions on. It's not the same as putting in a requirement that the law requires you to issue a 1099 to a contractor. I hardly see the point of that.
Well, I mean, the discussion is that you stated that we have to only include decisions and actions. And if we're only to include that, then anything that is not a decision or actions, including community comments,
well, that's the point.
in all fairness, needs to come out. And so the point is, commission, if that's what you guys want to do, but we can't have one and not the other. That's unfair.
Well, we wouldn't want to be unfair.
No.
No.
Okay. Commissioners, any other further discussion before we vote? Just, so the vote is on, Commissioner Gosselin.
Just so I understand the vote. I mean, I think this is a real waste of time. I think that
I agree.
but Liz, I think that this sort of stuff going into the minutes is not controversial. But so I understand the vote. Is the vote to approve Liz's minutes as are without Corinthia's addition? And then if that passes, does that foreclose
No.
Cynthia from making a motion? I mean, I don't want to go through all this, but just so I know what I'm voting on.
No, I mean, she could put an amendment, but I think the easiest way to do it, if commissioners want the additional detail in it, then you would not pass Commissioner Nagy's motion. If you want the minutes to stay as is without the detail, then you would pass.
I feel I need to make one more point, which is the OANC has complained in the past that our minutes have been like a transcript.
Yeah, there's no debate to that. And those minutes have never been a violation of anything.
I'm not saying that they're a violation, but they're not. in
Well,
compliance
right, which
with
goes
Robert's
to the
rules.
point to including the bare minimum on the treasurer that the treasurer is asking. And, you know, I will just say Commissioner Simmons is the only financial professional on the commission. So I think her asking for these things to be included, she feels as someone that has dedicated her entire career and is a financial professional, that it's important for us to include. I would hope as a commission that we could just do a simple request. If we include community comments, but not details from the treasurer's report, I don't know, you know, what we're doing in terms of business. We got to do both. Commissioner Grunwald, let me go to Commissioner Grunwald.
Yeah, hi, I just wanted to ask if Commissioner Nagy was considering changing her position or no?
No.
No, okay.
Oh,
Any other discussion, commissioners? Commissioner Sherman.
Just very quickly, the issue here, I think, in part is respecting the autonomy of the secretary to do the work as the secretary sees that work, consistent with Robert's rules and our bylaws and all the rest of these things. I would not have an objection to including something. My issue would be if then we were to encounter with some frequency the need to retroactively want to include things, and therefore we defeat the purpose of trying to encourage autonomy by the secretary to do the minutes. I just like let her do the minutes and then we're done with it. If we have to include something retroactively every now and then, I'm okay with that. I just wouldn't want it to be a matter of habit. In other words, she's got the job, let her do the job. And then if we absolutely have to put something in, we put something in. I'm just cautioning against this recurring. That's all.
But
Well,
this
and
is
I'm cautioning against fairness. If Commissioner Nagy has stated that the only thing that goes in the minutes are decisions and actions, and that is not what's being done. So if that's going to be the policy of this ANC, then we need to hold to that policy. We are absolutely including non-decisions and non-actions in our minutes.
just for the record, I'm only asking for one sentence. I'm not asking for a transcribe. It was a part of my treasurer discussion. So this isn't something that I did not state during the meeting.
Commissioner Godfrey.
just so we can get beyond this.
Get past this?
I suggest to the commission that we vote through Liz's minutes, and then we take a vote on a request by our treasurer for a statement that says contractors have to file and then receive 1099s, file with us 10
This is a
W-9
huge waste.
1099s, and then receive them from us. That is then a vote, and that has to be recorded in the minutes for the next meeting. I frankly think this whole issue is a waste of our time. We have substantive things to do, and I don't understand why we're fighting about this now for almost 25 minutes. And the easiest way around it, it seems to me, Liz, is to just put the damn thing in the minutes and accept that. But if you're not going to accept that, and we're going to respect your right to run the minutes as you see fit, then
Correct.
this is the way around that I suggest to my fellow commissioners.
So I call for the vote. Commissioners, all those in favor of amending or accepting the minutes as stated by Commissioner Nagy, which would be the 27th and the 29th of January, raise your hand. All those not in favor? Any, okay, no abstentions. 6-1-0. Commissioner Simmons, do you want to put a short motion on the floor?
Sure. I guess my motion is to add a sentence that we will provide our contractors with 1099s in the meeting minutes
What date?
for January 27th. a part of
there
the
a second?
treasurer's report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioners, all those in favor, raise your hand. One, two, three, four, five. All those opposed? Okay. The vote is 5-0. That motion passes. All right, I have to apologize to the community. These were some details that we had previously never worked out in a public meeting, but now we have to do it in a public meeting. And if the commission does not agree with the format of the minutes, we have to have this format to discuss it. So I apologize. We spent a half hour discussing minutes. So we're going to move on to business. We're going to let Lieutenant Olivier from MPD go on and give your presentation. Thank you for joining and thank you for your time tonight, Lieutenant.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year's. I wasn't able to say that last meeting. I'm gonna just jump right into it. I'm gonna let you all know where we were last year for the entire year. So last year, we cut more than half of the crime in 201. 2023 was 223 crimes. 24 was 150. As far as the only thing that went up in 2024 was the thefts. That was the thefts from the retail store. It only went up by 5 incidents, and that's because we had a rough start to the year in 2024. The theft from autos last year actually dropped. We had in 2023 we had 136 incidents. In 24 we had 72 theft from autos. So that we did a lot last year to stop the mob thefts from the retail. We actually brought that under control. Now the theft from autos this year is what's actually going up. So let me let you know what we had last year, 2024 January and January of this year. In comparison, the theft from autos, we had 4 in 2024 January. This year 13, and that's just since then we've had a few more, especially today. Today we had we had another 4 in the recreational parking lot where you normally hold the meetings. And I say that because, you know, we come on here for these meetings and we always say out of sight, out of mind. But the stuff that are being stolen out of cars are like $2,500 laptops. You know, significant. Or I'm only running in for 5 minutes. It only takes less than a minute for them to pop the glass, snatch the stuff, and be gone. Okay? They're walking around, they're looking for cars, they're not even trying the doors. If they see something in there, they're just breaking the glass. It's a lot faster in their minds. So that's where we are right now. I know that Commissioner Gosselin and I spoke today about a meeting on Thursday the 13th. Talk with the business owners and the community and MPD on what can be done to help with the theft from autos. And I believe that meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. I'm just asking everyone to come out. Go ahead.
Lieutenant, I have to put a caveat to my fellow commissioners. I'm going to send you invites to this meeting, but I'm going to ask you to be sparing in coming because we need to get this done quickly. We need this conversation between business owners and managers and MPD about doing something quickly. And if a quorum of us show up, we will be violating the public notice requirement. So I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I just think we need to move quickly here. So if it turns out that we get to the meeting Thursday and there are 4 or more of us, I'd ask some of you to sign off so we can just, Cynthia Simmons and I are putting this on for the business owners on both sides of Connecticut. And frankly, Lieutenant, I suspect, just so you're prepped for this, I think what we're going to be asking you for, among other things, is we've seen these new monitoring cameras on tall poles with a police blue light at the top. I've seen them in Cleveland Park, in the Park and Save, the Shop and Save. I was talking to Commissioner Nagy today, and she's seen them on Wisconsin. We're being told that they're temporary and they're very effective. And I hope that we can get them, particularly looking at the Magruder's parking lot and the CVS parking lot, and maybe also the community center now after today. So, for what it's worth.
Commissioner Gosselin, I just want to add a clarification. If there's 4 more commissioners, they don't have to sign off. Your meeting, your and Commissioner Simmons' meetings do not meet the requirements of.
Okay. I just
Yeah,
don't want to violate any public notice stuff. I just
No.
want to make sure we get the meeting fast. So I don't want to waste time, waiting 7 more days. Who knows how many cars will be hit by then?
Commissioner Fennessy.
Hi, yes, thank you, Lieutenant, and I appreciate the warnings to not leave things in cars. It's very frustrating. I was just wondering, while we have you on the Zoom, we've had a number of complaints from Lafayette Elementary School. We have students there with disabilities who need access to the handicapped spaces in front of the school. And some of the parents have been, like you said, it'll just take a minute. They're going and parking there, both in the morning drop off in the afternoon. And I happened to be near the school the other day when one of the officers who had previously been assigned to the school was in the neighborhood. And I said, hey, I'm going to go talk to these cars. Can you swing around? It was Officer Israel. And it was great because I asked a guy to move his car, and the gentleman with his child just walked away from me as I was talking to him while he was parked. And then Officer Israel was able to follow up and have a conversation that I think had a little more effect with his, police credentials. So I don't know, obviously what your staffing is, but if you could get, especially in the morning, drop off like 8 to 8:45, and then pick up 3:45, and then again, maybe 5 to 6. Even if it's intermittent, we could really use some enforcement there. I think once people get the message, they may back off, but it's increasingly problematic and difficult for our disabled family members.
Yes, I remember the email, and I believe I sent Israel up there to deal with that. I instructed him to go ahead and put tickets on vehicles if you see them in the handicap parking zone. It's a very substantial ticket. I don't think anyone wants to get that. I also reached out to a DDOT, and they were telling me that they have the crossing guards there that issue tickets as well. So we already talking to them about this situation.
Thank you so much. Appreciate any help you can offer.
No problem.
Commissioner Grunwald?
Yes, Lieutenant, we're having a bit of a problem on the area in my SMD around Newlands and 28th Street. We have St. John students partially blocking driveways and alleys and causing a big problem. It's overflow parking from St. John's. And the residents are constantly calling the police to come and ticket the cars, but they say no one responds, that a patrol car will drive down the street and pass cars that are in violation, but not ticketing. Are you aware of this problem? St. John is apparently, St. John's High School is apparently preparing a new parking lot on its site. But in the meantime, it has an excess of kids with cars who have to park right in the neighborhood. It's causing a lot of problems. And I was wondering if you've heard of this and can help with that.
Well, I know they are constructing that new parking lot, but I haven't heard of students or anyone blocking driveways and stuff.
The residents have photos and so on.
Okay, I appreciate it, but
Hydrants and so on, yeah.
to me, it's unheard of that an officer is going to take an assignment and not just drive by without, the only thing I could say is that when you call 911, you could ask for the officer to talk to you, speak with you. This way he has to, he's compelled to speak with the person that's complaining if you feel like the officer is driving by. However, I will have a discussion with the officers in roll call and during the day, day work, because I believe it's happening in the morning, correct?
Yes, yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
It's
All
quite congested. Yeah.
Okay,
I would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
no problem. Mhm.
All right, any other questions from community members? Okay.
We had a announcement. I don't know if you want the announcement from Janice Lewis George's office about the rescheduled hearing. If Barbara's still on.
Yes, can we do that in the announcement section, Commissioner Fennessy?
Okay.
Thank you.
If there are additional questions, I'm going to log out right now.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant.
All right.
See you on Thursday.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now this section of the agenda, community members, if you have any, and Commissioner Fennessy, this is a chance that where you can bring up the Ward 4 announcement. For any community members that have any additional topics of interest or anything they want to share with the ANC that's not on our current agenda, this is a time where you can do that. Do you want to read off her announcement, Commissioner Fennessy?
Sure, unless Ms. Rogers wants to come on, but I'm looking in the chat and it said due to the snowstorm tomorrow, the listening session for Chevy Chase. Oh, I think maybe she's unmuted. Ms. Rogers, are you there?
Yes, hi, Commissioner. I know that you all, hello. I know that you all are running a little behind, so I just started putting some of my announcements in the chat. Not you don't have to read them. I just, in case we run out of time, I just wanted to make sure I got that information to the residents.
Okay.
I can wait until my time.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Any other discussion, community members?
We did have a question about the zoning hearing, but I think that would go maybe, would that go into business later today?
Let's see. Nope, we can discuss that there.
Okay, this was
Yeah.
a point raised by Mr. Ed Greenberg, who wondered, he said it didn't look as if the zoning commission discussed the resolution passed by the ANC about the contested case.
Yep. There was a couple of us on there, and they definitely did not, I don't remember them even mentioning a resolution. They alluded to the resolution and gave it absolutely short shift. So I will let other commissioners chime in on that. I see Commissioner Gosselin was nodding his head. I know Commissioner Sherman was there. Commissioner Nagy was there as well. Either one of you guys want to add to that?
No.
I'd like to add to that I hardly think that what the zoning commission did would amount to giving us great weight. They did barely mention the fact that there was an ANC resolution, but they spent a lot of time justifying what they were doing and not a lot of time discussing the fact that the ANC 34G didn't agree with what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Gosselin?
I'd just like to add that one of the things that I found most baffling about the hearing is Chair Hood went on at some length about his sympathy for what could happen to local businesses and suggested that there were things that could be done to help local businesses during a construction phase, and there aren't right now. There simply aren't. I mean, it was just empty verbiage because there aren't. Now, I mean, the city right now is in some financial trouble given that its tax base downtown is such a mess. And I don't know where we're going to get that help, but I mean, we do rental assistance for apartment dwellers and people in individuals and families in need. We may not do enough of it, but we do that. And the question is, can we help get the city to generate a commercial program similar to that that would help businesses, tide businesses over the transition, so we can both have some change and not destroy our local businesses. And Hood waxed poetic about it, but he had exactly zero. He was pointing to something which is an empty set. There aren't, other than, he pointed, for example, to Main Street, and Main Street just does not have the resources to help in this kind of situation.
Any other Commissioner Sherman?
Just very quickly, I thought it was telling procedurally that Vice Chair Miller did most of the talking.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. Yep. Any other comments on that, commissioners, community members? Yeah, okay. Anything else, Commissioner Fennessy, in the chat? Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad we did get a chance to, touch base on that hearing and get some of what we saw out, in terms of discussion to the community. All right, so next up on our agenda is discussion and possible vote on some administrative processes. And just as a setup, and this goes to what Commissioner Gosselin mentioned at the top of the meeting, we had a contractor that was assisting the ANC for almost about a year with our hybrid meeting process. And he would come to the community center about, almost hour and a half, 2 hours in advance to actually set up all the equipment. It's a very complicated technical setup. It takes a while to set up. And then at the end of the meeting, him and the commissioners, we all kind of help take that equipment down. And one of the things that he would also do was, monitor the chat. He would help the commissioners technically, because sometimes we run into technical difficulties at the community center with either our computer devices or the Wi-Fi. So there is a range of duties that he would help us with in order to make us efficient doing those hybrid meetings. We recently found out he's a grad student that one of his classes conflicts with the ANC meeting dates. So he had to resign from the position. So we are truly heartbroken about that, but it has forced us into this virtual only hybrid for, this point in time. We had an administrative meeting where we discussed a number of things. Some of the things that we'll talk about and vote on is an earlier meeting time to help us not only mainly to help us to allow the community more time to discuss topics. So that's one thing, and I think Commissioner Nagy proposed 6:30. Meeting formats, we'll discuss that because right now we're in virtual. Our goal is to try to do some in person until we can get another person to help us with the hybrid option. So there is a couple different proposals by different commissioners of how our meetings might look like going forward, whether that would be all virtual, some meetings in person, all in person. There's been a couple things that has been placed on the table. And then we'll set a date for a special meeting to discuss ANC committees. During the administrative meeting, one of the things that came up was whether or not our current committees should continue to operate. Some of them some of them are coming due of their life cycle in terms of task forces like Murray. Commissioner Gosselin had proposed and did not object to us removing zoning, design, and development as a standing committee. We still have the race committee and we still have transportation committee. So there's a couple different views from different commissioners on the necessity of those committees. And in addition to that, just the overall function, their mission, what they're going to be doing for the commission, how they're going to operate. So during the administrative meeting, obviously this is a very serious topic. We said that we would do a special meeting where the community would have time to be aware of and attend and offer input. So we'll be discussing a date for that. But to start off, Commissioner Nagy, do you want to start off with giving us your recommendation and a discussion of the proposed meeting time? I believe during the administrative meeting, you suggested that we start at 6:30 as opposed to 7. You're on mute. Yep, you're on mute, Commissioner Nagy.
Yep, sorry. I did that because my phone rang and I didn't want to bother everybody. Yes, I think that it would be feasible to start a hybrid meeting at 6:30 so that we can actually have a full 2 hours to discuss the issues that are before the ANC. We seem to sort of rush through it. We give short shrift to community input, and we could give the community longer to talk if we would just start a little bit earlier. I think 6:30 seems like a reasonable time. People are, it is possible for people to be done with dinner or by 6:30 if they want to be. So I propose we start at 6:30 and we end at 8:30. And the ending time is in part driven by the fact that one of our commissioners needs to leave at 8:30.
Commissioners, any discussion on that or alternative proposals?
Related to the start time,
Yes.
I'm fine with 6:30.
The only discussion item I have is that if we could hope, like, stick to times. So if we let community members speak, if we give everyone 2 minutes, they kind of stick to their 2 minutes versus 5 minutes, because then we'll go from 2 hours to then needing 3 hours. So just being cognizant of, you know, making sure people just adhere to times.
Commissioner Grunwald?
As I take the opposite view, I I believe that it's great to hear from as many people as possible. And if it's possible for some commissioners to stay late, I think it's wonderful for as many people in our community to be heard as possible. Barring having to leave the community center because the employees need to go home. But if it's a Zoom meeting, I don't see why we can't go on a little extra. If people in our community want to speak, they should be heard. And if it's not hurting anybody, I don't see why we can't spend an extra half hour or so. Especially on a Zoom call when there's no, we don't have to worry about people having to close down the community center. That's just my point of view.
Commissioner Gosselin?
Lisa, remind me, I believe that we tried starting early sometime in 2023. I mean, look, I'm fine with trying things, but I just warn that just as we're now all virtual, we took an immense amount of heat for not facing our constituents in person. I suspect that will come along with time. And in 2022 and 2023, I think we did start at 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we took all sorts of heat about, ruining people's dinners and not being able to have dinners. So that and all of this, we can keep trying to turn the dials, and I think that's fine. And I think that, Commissioner Sherman has some proposals about how we change up between virtual and, several of the commissioners during our administrative meeting offered proposals about how we could change up between virtual and in person. And I think doing these experiments is fine. I just say that we've tried a bunch of these things and we've gotten blowback. So,
Commissioner Nagy?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I'm not saying that we wouldn't have in-person meetings. My proposal for starting at 6:30 applies to online meetings. So I'm not precluding in any way that we would meet in person. I'm actually a big fan of meeting in person.
Okay, so I want to be clear about the proposal. So if we have a in-person meeting, what time would we start? 7?
I really wasn't addressing that. I mean, I'm happy to start at 6:30 for an in-person meeting, but I'm not the only commissioner here, so I don't think we really discussed that at our administrative meeting.
Okay. So, and I only bring that up because I think if we have different meeting times for different types of meeting, it's going to be very confusing to the community.
Yeah.
So whatever we propose, I would recommend that the commission just adopt that as the starting time of our meetings, whether it's a special meeting, unless we have to have a special time for that. But for our regular meetings, regardless of the format, I would suggest we just have one meeting time. Commissioner Gosselin, did you have your hand raised?
Precisely my point. I mean, I just wanted to say, if we're going to experiment with 6:30, let's experiment across the board. You know, in person and virtual.
Commissioner Nagy?
I was just gonna say, people feel that 6:30 is too early and that it interferes with people's dinners, then I would advocate for extending the length of the meeting on the other end. So we would start at 7 and end at 9, certainly for an online meeting. There's no reason that we couldn't.
Commissioner Fennessy?
My question would be, I, for example, have an SMD charrette that I'm going to need to reschedule, but I have scheduled it for 7. So if we had like a town hall or SMD that's not the full ANC and we were doing it Zoom, would we need those to adhere to the 6:30, or could those be
They're not,
continuing as scheduled already?
Yeah, those could be as scheduled by the commissioner, single member district commissioner. Yeah, this would just be for regular meetings. Any comments or discussion from the community? I'm definitely curious to hear what the community says.
There's one comment in the chat that it might be hard to get people to come early. I think, it goes both ways. It can be hard to get, people to stay late for bedtime. It's just plain hard. I think virtual and hybrid offer better options sometimes for people with young kids, but I don't think there's an easy way to do an evening meeting with young children. I don't.
All right, Commissioner, you ready to vote?
Just to be clear what we're voting on a start time of 6:30 or online meeting or any other meeting that we might have, regular meeting, not SMD meetings. Are we also voting right now on this format for the foreseeable future, or just the time?
Just the time. Okay. Commissioner Nagy, do you want to put a motion on the floor?
yeah, I make a motion that we begin our meetings at our regular meetings at 6:30.
Second.
Commissioners, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Carried 7-0. All right. So in terms of meeting formats, Commissioner Sherman, you had some suggestions there.
Yeah.
And I think this was probably a little bit of toss up from the entire commission, but we do need to discuss, since we do not have a contractor that can get us into the hybrid format, we do definitely need to discuss the meeting format going forward.
Right. When we, in my mind, as I expressed in our admin meeting, when we weigh all of our considerations, including how these meetings work, the efficiency, the effectiveness of them in hybrid versus online only versus strictly in person, when we weigh the need to have in-person meetings because a part of the community does want, and we want as commissioners, to interact with community members face to face outside of our routine dealings with our constituents and our single member districts, I'm proposing that we have the regular meetings be in this virtual only format, and once a quarter to start. We could increase the frequency over time, but once a quarter we do an in-person only town hall, and that we would choose locations across our ANC, such as In my district, of course, Janice Lewis George is going to be meeting at Knollwood now on the 22nd. That is a venue. St. John's College High School is a venue. But obviously Lafayette could be a venue. Ingleside could be a venue. Chevy Chase Presbyterian could be a venue. There are many different venues in the community, and then going out into the community has the virtue of going out into the community, meeting people face to face in their very areas of our larger ANC, which I like in terms of our community outreach. So my proposal is virtual for our regular meetings, and then quarterly town hall in person only, not try to do it as a hybrid, just have it be in person only. But I'm flexible on that. That's just a starting place.
Commissioners, any discussion?
I'm fine with
So to be clear, our regular meetings would be virtual. And the town halls, once a quarter in person throughout the district. That's what you're proposing?
Not hybrid.
Not hybrid. And administratively, as I think I mentioned at our meeting, I am holding my hand up to help find those venues with the commissioners and organize them. I recognize that's going to take legwork, and I'm offering to do it.
Commissioner Naki?
So I say I'm happy to help finding those venues, but I am really interested to see what the community thinks of this option. So is there anything in the chat? Does anyone in the community want to talk about what their preference is, whether it's for in-person, hybrid, or all virtual?
We see comments like allowing comments to be written over time. Some people think that the other ANCs seem to be able to handle their agenda in fewer meetings per month. I'm about to respond that we have a very large number of projects.
Right.
That's all I see right now in the chat.
Ms. Gibbons?
Thank you. I'm not sure what the idea behind a town hall is, if that's a different format or not, but it strikes me that that would sort of reduce the amount of people that have access to the meetings, because Zoom meetings, I mean, I've been to in-person meetings many times, and Zoom meetings increase accessibility, especially like in the winter when it's icy and older people can't get out, people who don't drive. Seems to me that, you know, it's the job of commissioners to go meet their constituents where they need to meet them, but having the meetings be accessible to as many people as possible seems like it should be a priority.
Commissioner Gosselin?
I'd just say, in answer to that you would have under Bruce's proposal, you would have no fewer regular meetings. We would do all of our meetings virtual. I think what we're trying to do is find a comfortable spot between acting as a commission in person every once in a while, but we would still have our regular meetings under Commissioner Sherman's proposal, all virtual. So there would be access to them. And we could add to Bruce's proposal that although I'm a little confronted about the technology, that we would videotape and post the town hall meetings too. In effect, Megan, we're adding an extra meeting to our schedule. Okay.
I misunderstood that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we adding an extra 4?
An extra 4.
Yeah, that's right. That
Yes.
would effectively, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're adding an extra 4. He's saying 1 per quarter.
1 per quarter, that's right.
That's a lot, Commissioner.
Yeah, so-
That's going to be a lot.
Yeah, I was just gonna,
Thank you. Oops, hang on. Yeah, here we go. Thank you. I just want to say, I saw in the chat that there was comment about when community members have comments that go longer, they should be able to put them into the record. And I wanted to mention that community members always have the option of sending in written comments to the commission from these meetings. You don't, that goes without saying.
And I will post the link to do that. If you go on the ANC's webpage, there is actually at the top of the webpage a link that says submit public feedback. And you could use that. It's a form, it identifies the meeting. And then you put your topic, you can attach documents, which we've had a lot of people do. And you can send that to the commission and it registers your feedback.
Thank you.
Can I share some comments from the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, we have some folks that said the hybrid format is terrible. That may be a function of the sound qualities at the rec center, but others said that hybrid seems the best of both worlds for people who want to be in person and some who need to be able to stay home. More support for allowing people to put the comments in the meeting. And wanted to know if those comments went into the record of the meeting as opposed to just being separate comments sent to the ANC.
Well, I think that's we just kind of had that discussion at the top of the meeting about what goes into the minutes. That's the official record of the meeting.
But I think that's in reference, if I could add the thought, to memorializing what is said outside of what is recorded on the audio and the video. Zoom, of course, does transcribe the chat.
Mhm.
The chat is available as part of the Zoom package in terms of what we download and then can upload. So we actually have the facility, and this is part of the beauty of doing it this way, to go ahead and put into quote unquote the record. It's not the minutes, it's simply what is kept of the meeting and uploading that.
Right, but it's not the official record. I just don't
No,
want the
no, it's not the minutes. That's right.
right. I just don't want the community to be confused with that.
Right.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons, then Grunwald, then Nagy.
Yes, so I just want to take us back to these town hall meetings. I intend to engage with my constituents as well, like in person, still canvassing, and I don't know if I want to add an additional meeting. I have a young child. My schedule is already busy in addition to our 2 monthly meetings. So I would probably suggest that each commissioner conduct their own and their own town halls themselves rather than us doing it as a group. Because it's just gonna be too many meetings and meetings and meetings and meetings in addition to us already engaging with our constituents. So I would rather have the additional town hall. I would just ask commissioners to personally interact with their constituents on their own, and lend a hand out to their constituents, reach out to them.
Commissioner Nagy?
It was my turn.
Ask me, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify that the comments that people would send in do become part of the record, but they're not part of the minutes, and there's a distinction to be made there, right? So not to confuse the record with the minutes. And I looked at a couple of different Zoom meetings recently, like in the last 2 days, and you can see the chat and you can see the transcript. So that should take care of the concern that people might have about their comments being subsumed. They're there. You can see them.
Commissioner Grunwald?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that adding or attaching written comments to the record of each meeting in the way that Liz just described, it would be like adding the chat to the record. If we added all the comments in the chat, I think it would be a good idea. I think it would stimulate conversation. It would hit a lot of things that we don't catch in the meeting. Lots of times residents have really interesting things to say. It's like reading the comments section of the New York Times. Sometimes I get more out of those comments than I do out of the article itself. But what I wanted to say is that perhaps instead of adding 4 extra meetings a year in terms of these in-person meetings, perhaps every 4th meeting could be in person. Is that an idea that anyone would be interested in? Every 4th meeting, the first 3 meetings could be Zoom, and then the 4th meeting could be in person? I don't know. It just seems more reasonable than adding 4 additional meetings to what we already have. Thank you.
Commissioner Nagy.
Thank you. I would go for that. I would be in favor of that.
I'll just say that I wouldn't be opposed to that, Commissioner Grunwald. I am concerned about adding 4 additional meetings, with those meetings being town halls, which to me run very differently than a regular meeting. With a regular meeting, we got an agenda, we know we got to have a quorum. There's, if we do a town hall, I just don't know about that structure. That to me does not sound like a regular meeting. So some of the requirements are going to be different. And I just caution the commission. That's, we're got a lot of work. We got a lot of grunt work to do, and adding meetings becomes very, very difficult because we don't have the infrastructure to handle the meetings. Just plain. We got a commission with a lot of new commissioners this first year, and everybody's trying to get their feet wet and understand the process. And when we tack on the additional requirements, it makes it really, really hard for us to do that. So I just, want folks to think about that. Commissioner Grunwald?
Yeah, how about 2 town halls? 2 town halls in a year? I don't know. Bruce, what do you think about that?
I'll organize them. All you have to do is show up.
Well, but I mean, I
I
would say, yeah, I know that you volunteered to do that, but I mean, if it's a commission town hall, it's a commission town hall. And we should all be involved in helping to organize and helping to decide, what we talk about. So when I think of a town hall, that's a discussion. That's not the commission coming somewhere and conducting business with votes. That's a discussion with the community. Well, what are those topics going to be? What presenters are going to present those topics? Is it going to be us? Is it going to be somebody else? So organizing a town hall to me is not a little, sidebar event, and it's not an event for one commissioner. The entire commission has to be involved in that.
Just to be clear, though, I wasn't suggesting that I would set the agenda and drive the train. I'm only suggesting that logistically finding the place and helping do the grunt work. I'm just holding my hand up for that, in total collaboration with everybody else in terms of what we talk about, who would be there, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, no, I completely understand, but I just it's not an easy lift. Let me go to Michelle Wolin, then Commissioner Grunwald, and Commissioner Fennessy.
Hi. Yeah, we did virtual meetings for a long time before we did hybrid. And I think particularly with respect to the civic core issues, it was a real problem that there were never in-person meetings. Everything was done hybrid. Community could never get a sense of where other people were. And actually at the time, there was never any special meeting about it. So it was, just low attendance anyway. But I do think, thinking back on meetings over the past year, there have been times where the fact that the meeting was in person, I think, how can I say this, revealed the community's views even more when people had strong feelings about things. And with virtual, you miss that. You can get stuff in the chat, but the chat sometimes can feel like a black hole. And I think that just doing all virtual just doesn't cut it. And perhaps I missed this, but is it impossible to get someone else to help with the hybrid meetings? I mean, seems like there should be someone out there younger than me that can do that. Because I know hybrid meetings, God knows, they have their problems with hearing and all that, but I do think it gives people an opportunity to be there, to see other people there. you know, to get a sense of where community feeling is that you just don't quite get necessarily with virtual.
Commissioner Grunwald.
Yeah, hi. So, yeah, I agree with Michelle. I mean, when we discussed all this at our administrative meeting, I raised the fact that people do like to meet in person. You miss so much body language and facial expression and so on when you meet online, and you don't get to talk to people. You don't get to convince them of your position. A lot of things become much more apparent when you meet in person. The best meeting I ever attended in Chevy Chase was the Dumphead meeting a couple of years ago in January at the Presbyterian Church. It was in person and it was hybrid. It was in person. It was also online. And the acoustics were fantastic. It was excellent. So, you know, another option here that while we're talking about this would be to continue on with hybrid meetings, but just produce them in a much better way. Perhaps, and definitely at a different location. We could see if the Presbyterian Church, would be available and would like to participate with us. And then we need to find someone who can do the same sound that Dumpit did for that meeting. So that's the other alternative.
Okay. Commissioner Fennessy, and folks are gonna have to wrap this up. Then let's say last comments from Simmons and Nagy. And then we should probably have someone propose a motion or move on to the next topic.
Okay, comments saying that when people have more to say than will fit into their allotted time, adding comments to the record is a great idea. Also, when commissioners conduct their own town halls, maybe that the rest of the community won't know what is being said.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
Yes, I'll be really quick. I just want to remind commissioners to please reach out to their constituents. My son is at Lafayette. I speak to all the parents in the neighborhood at Lafayette, and I think we have that group of people who are not represented in the community. They don't come to meetings. They don't come to Zoom. I think I'm an anomaly. You guys see my son all the time. So I just don't want the community to think that because they're in person, that is the views of the entire community. I just want to encourage all of us to continue canvassing and talking with our constituents, because we're missing that voice that can't stay on Zoom for 4 hours or 3 hours. So that's all.
Commissioner Nagy?
Yes, thank you. I would like to follow up on what Commissioner Grunwald said about doing the hybrids and doing them right. I think that that's something that we really need to consider seriously, because there are other places that we can hold our hybrid Zoom in-person meetings besides the community center. And I really encourage us to try to find those places. But I also wanted to say that I thought that I heard the OANC say during the OANC new commissioners training that they were rolling out some new technology for meetings. Do I recall that correctly? Anybody who was there?
What new
No?
tech?
What new tech?
I thought there was new tech that they were going to make available to us, and I guess I'd like to inquire with them about that.
I don't know if it was new tech or more tech
Website.
support.
Can I make a, we ought to, could I just make a comment? Lisa?
Let me check first. Commissioner Grunwald, you had your hand up for a while.
No, just getting back to Commissioner Simmons' point about, a lot of our community is not represented because they can't show up to Zoom meetings or in-person meetings. And I just wanted to pop in and say that's where surveys come in. And that's why surveys are so important. They can reach everyone in the community so that everyone is represented. So I wanted to say thank you.
Commissioner Gosselin.
Yeah, two things. We should check with OANC, Liz, but I think what they are talking about is they bought 10 of these video setups that we turn out, because other commissions aren't using them, we turn out to have them at our disposal, sitting in our office at the community center, What we don't have is somebody who set the damn thing up, other than me. And we don't have anybody to do the tech troubleshooting that needs to be done during the course of a meeting. It would be great if we could improve our production values of meetings, and it would be wonderful if we could find new locations. But I just say it, I don't mean to sound like some old war horse. We tried, Temple Sinai, Blessed Sacrament, Presbyterian. There are loads of places that will agree to host us periodically. But what they don't want to do is make a commitment to the first, second, and fourth Mondays of every month ad infinitum, because they have, I think mostly in talking, when we did this, we talked to a bunch of these people before, it's because of the janitorial costs of keeping somebody there late. So, and we can try again. And as Bruce has suggested, we could move it around. I mean, there are loads of spaces that have better sound. There almost any space, a stadium would have almost better sound than the community center auditorium. So, I mean, so just to say, we've tried it, and I think the tech they're talking about is the stuff we have locked in our office.
Okay.
Can I just respond to that for a moment?
Yes, hang on, Commissioner Grunwald and
I
Nagy.
just
and
wanted to say, just wanted to say that we are hiring an administrative assistant. So hopefully that person should be able to do all this tech and do all this setting up. That should be a prerequisite, right, of the job, of the hiring. Thank you.
Commissioner Nagy.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to say that I've been reading a lot of OANC stuff lately, and I saw somewhere where another ANC was paying for fees at a rental location. So I'm wondering if we would be allowed to cover some costs for the National Presbyterian Center or one of the other venues to cover their janitorial costs. It would be a rental fee in essence. And I do think we have the authority to do that. Whether we have the money to do that, that's another story, but I think we do have the authority.
Okay, commissioners, we got some other agenda topics to move on. I mean, do we have a consensus with where we're going to go from here? Is there a motion on the floor?
Let me make a motion, which is that we, for the foreseeable future, since we haven't reached a conclusion here as to what we wish to do, that we proceed on a virtual only basis and then reassess in due course, make it a month, 2 months, what have you. We do need to hire this administrative assistant if we go that route. And I would also remind everyone that even with the best technical support, we always have the circumstance of some people not speaking into microphones, some people online claiming they can't hear, they can't see there are other issues related to hybrid meetings. And the other thing I would very quickly add is that we are, as Commissioner Simmons indicated, all doing, or certainly are encouraged to do, extensive community outreach in addition to our meetings. And the time we spend in meetings is a fraction of the time we spend on the job, as we all know. So we have to keep in mind and keep in perspective what we do in meetings and the time it is required to produce them and manage them relative to everything else we do for the number of people who are in our meetings. And tonight there are 35 out of 15,000 residents. So I just want to keep that in mind as a perspective on that. But my motion is that we, for the foreseeable future, go ahead and do this on a virtual basis and then reassess. Do I have a second on that? All right.
Any further discussion, commissioners? Okay, all those in favor, show your hands. Okay, unanimous. All right, 7-0.
So just to summarize, we're virtual for the time being, starting at 6:30.
Yes.
Okay.
And the last thing under administrative, commissioners, get your calendars out to set the date for the special meeting on the discussion for the ANC committees. So if you recall, during our administrative meeting, we said that we would do this discussion at a special meeting of the ANC. and we need to give at least 7 days notice. I think 7 days is not enough. So we cannot have it any earlier than February the 17th.
Which is President's Day. actually.
And not on the 20th, because that's when I'm gonna have, I had to reschedule the Zoom with Janice Lewis George's rescheduling her meet and greet.
What about the week of the 24th or the first week of March?
Fine. I mean, I could also do, you know, the 18th or 19th. I just can't do the 20th.
I could do the 19th, and I could do the week of the 24th.
I'm unavailable on the 19th, but I can work my schedule for the 24th, the week of the 24th.
We have a regular ANC meeting on the 24th, correct?
Yeah, so it'd be the
Yeah.
25th, 26th, or 27th.
Yeah.
I can do either of those days, so that's fine with me.
26 does not work for me.
Was it
How was the
25th
27th?
or the 27th?
27th does, yeah.
The 27th doesn't work. Well, yes, it does. I have something in the morning, but I could do. So I'm assuming that we're going to do 6:30. That'll be our start time, commissioners.
Sure.
Okay.
How
Yeah,
about,
I can't do the 27th. I have something. I can do the 25th.
about the 25th?
I can do the 25th.
I can do the 25th.
I can't do.
you
Yep,
can't.
I can do it.
Yes, the 25th.
Bruce, did you say you
Yes, I
can't
said
do
yes.
it?
Yep, I can. Yeah.
Right. Okay, commissioners. So that special meeting will be February 25th at
6:30.
6:30. At 6:30. Virtual, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Just on our agenda for that meeting, I know it's committees, but there were probably a number of other administrative issues we didn't get to at the last admin meeting. We might want to just keep that agenda open and maybe submit Commissioner Gore to you some ideas for what we might also talk about then. If it's a 2-hour meeting, if we have time.
Okay. Yep, that's fine. All right. Discussion and possible votes. So we're moving on to our next agenda item, which probably will be fairly short. Discussion and possible vote on performance oversight testimony. I had sent around in the agenda DGS, DC Water and Sewer, and Department of Parks and Rec. And I included the sign up link and when the hearing is going to be. And I know there's several commissioners working on testimony on email today. All of us said that we hadn't had a chance to get it in for ANC vote tonight and that we will do it as single member district testimony, which I think is fine. In a perfect world, we want it to come from the entire ANC, but it's really tough. It's really tough, and especially tough coming in as a new commissioner, trying to understand all these processes and how this works, and to get testimony together is really, really, really tough. So I don't really have anything else on that. We talked about, like, if you're testifying as a single member district commissioner, just to state that you're testifying on behalf of your, as a single member district commissioner. I think the committee hearings, and Barbara is still on here, she wants to add, or Kendall, are in person and via Zoom, where you could testify downtown or via Zoom. And then on most of them, the written record doesn't close. That's the one thing that I couldn't find for these 3 hearings, when the written record closed. So there might be a chance if the written record closes before the 24th, we might be able to get a written testimony in there. But if not, at least sign up as SMD commissioners and with the verbal testimony, you don't even have to have anything written. Just, speak from your heart and, talk about the issues that are impacting your SMD. Do you guys want to add anything to that? Commissioner Gosselin?
I'll bet you've already sent around an omnibus list, but if you have it, would you send it again? And who knows, someday,
Do
in
you remember
the
that
next few
link
days,
I
I may
sent
be able to
with
see
the
my email.
agenda? It took me like a half hour to put that thing together.
All right, well, then there's no problem. You can send it.
I will send it around again, and I will keep looking for the submission deadlines on the written testimony, because I do think that's important, because most of them are longer. The written record usually stays open a little bit later, but yes, I'll send that around. Let me make a note. Any Commissioner Sherman?
Just to clarify, my testimony would be for Department of Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
And I would, Commissioner Fennessy, given that you and I share interest around playing fields and whatnot, I certainly will be in touch with you. We have separate testimonies, obviously, but just to be mindful of one another's testimony.
Right, right. Yes, I'm gonna do DGS as well as DPR, because their lack of maintenance has certainly impacted our community.
And just before I let Barbara talk, I'm going to do DC Water, and I'm going to touch on the water projects that not only occurred in my SMD. So my SMD was really affected by the small pipe replacement project, but I'll also touch on the Connecticut Avenue issues. I was pretty involved with former Commissioner Ferguson in that. But definitely I want to do DC Water to get that out. Barbara?
Yes, I just wanted to answer your question. It is 1 week after the hearing.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Gosh, okay. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm back in school or something. 1 week after the hearing. Okay, thank you.
Right?
Sure.
Commissioner Gosselin?
That's a help, though, right? I mean, it means that these near deadlines have just been extended effectively.
Yeah, but only by a week. I was thinking that for some reason, I was thinking that the written testimony was like a couple weeks, but it's a week. A week is a week. We'll take it. Yeah.
So we're discussing near-term testimony. There are other, you had flagged the ones that are near-term that are coming up that we wanted to identify that we testify for. There are others that are out a little further.
Yeah.
I will be looking at testimony for DDOT related to, and I know Commissioner Fennessy had mentioned this as well. That's the reason I'm mentioning it now. Bioretention beds, since I have the lion's share of those in my SMD, and we've been super active on those with the program we've established with DOEE. So I might actually look at DOE as well, but just to flag that I will be interested in doing some further testimony beyond DPR.
Okay. DDOT has already gone.
Has it gone? Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know if DOEE has gone. And the other thing, Commissioner Sherman, we could keep in mind is budget. Well, I mean, it's not budget oversight. I don't know if your issue could fall in budget oversight as well.
Well, I'll look at DOEE because it is DOE that maintains them. So that's actually even more appropriate.
Okay. All right. And I'll resend that list. I will do that tonight. I promise. Send you guys that list back out.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else on performance oversight? Okay, great, folks. So I'm gonna turn it over now to Commissioner Fennessy to give us an update on the Lafayette Pointer erosion and field projects.
Okay, hi. Yeah, so we don't have a whole lot of information from the city on this. They announced last March at the meeting at Lafayette School that was given to the community a few days before it occurred, with that date, that they would be doing a lot of erosion mitigation at the park. While people really agreed that erosion mitigation was something that was needed, they were very surprised to see diagrams, small, but nevertheless, like plans done for phase one, which basically goes from the top of the hill of the park down to the baseball field and down towards the blacktop of the school. Those plans were not done in conjunction with either the park group or the community at large. And DGS would not meet with other agencies like urban forestry or with DOEE. So as a result, our community was not able to talk to those agencies in the plan before the project went through, because those agencies were told that they could not talk to us unless they were in a meeting with DGS. And since DGS wouldn't give the meeting, those agents, we were, muzzled, and they were muzzled. So the erosion project went through phase one. It was quite expensive, I think about $2 million. It was disruptive. They put the Berlin Wall of fencing between the rec center and the school in the summer that disrupted summer camp programs that were held. Part of it was held at the rec center and part of it was held at the school, and the kids really had to kind of a schlep to get back and forth between the two locations. It also took out the sledding hill, most of it. It took out the path from the baseball field to the bathrooms. The kids have to walk much farther. And so really, as we look at what might happen with the next phase, which is going to be the upper field and then going back down to the northwest corner between where Broad Branch and Casada touch. And so, and there's serious erosion there, but we want to get ahead of the planning because DGS and DPR have said that they will only do a maximum of 3 meetings with our community. So if that is the case, then how they would normally do it would be they'd come talk to whoever came up that day and showed up, hear what people want. They'd come back with a draft, get another couple of, hints or whatever, and then they present the final version. And just a lot of their contractors are not familiar with how that space is used. They're not familiar with commitments that were made about the space. They may not know that, hey, this is a nature pollinator garden. This is a garden made in memory of so-and-so. The kids use this piece of the park for this kind of thing. So we're going to have a charrette, which is like a conversation to try to get some planning, and facilitated with a neighbor in the green building and sustainable community business. And so we're going to have that. I'm going to run that Zoom on the 20th now. And people can come, and first we'll paint a picture, what this property looks like, what the condition, where it is, what condition it's in, what types of trees might be up there. We'll kind of give the overview of the process that seems to be coming from DPR and DGS, and then start asking people what they might envision in terms of erosion control. Because the project that we got from the rec center towards the baseball field side is very built. Like there are some almost like stadium concrete step series there between the blacktop. There are a lot of bioretention gardens that are very deep, and then they've got some overflow drains that project up like 1.5 feet. It's not like a seamless natural green space anymore. It's very interrupted. But when we get some rain, we didn't really have good rains this fall to test it, but when we get some rain, we'll see, are they effective? So that's really what this conversation is going to be. I would note that on the DPR website, they have an update on their website titled January 25th update, which they never shared, to my knowledge, with anybody in the community. I hadn't seen it until I went to prepare for the Ward 3, Ward 4 construction project, but they have, for example, they say, oh, we're going to install 450 feet of drains around the track. And I don't understand why, because we just had $2 million worth of erosion projects. So if we need 450 feet, that's like a football field and a half worth of drains. Like, did this $2 million project not work? Where are these drains going to be? You know, there's just a lot of questions. So we're trying to get ahead, present what we think we might like to see so that we're in a proactive position as opposed to reactive. That's my spiel. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, Commissioner Fennessy, tell us what your ideal outcome is.
What would be my ideal outcome? Well, I would have a part of it would be an ideal process outcome. I think the rec center, for example, was pretty good in a process in terms of getting the actual building built in considerations that they went back and forth a number of times. It's not been ideal in terms of outcome of staffing or maintenance, but the building itself was pretty good. I think, you know, listening to the community, getting heard, getting people's voices heard. I think that's really important. I think effectiveness in terms of not having the runoff into Broad Branch and Casada is very important. We've got homes down there that are in, I'm not sure if I think they're in Corinthia Simmons SMD on the other side of Broad Branch there at Casada, but homes have flooded in their basements because of the runoff coming from the park. And they're getting ready to take out 19 trees, which was kind of a surprise announcement. And I know of about 14 that we've lost in the last 10 years in that park. So that would be, 29 trees in 15 years is a lot to lose in the park. So I would like to see something that maybe will protect some of the really important trees that we have there. I mean, there are some weed trees, trees that are 6 inches in diameter that maybe aren't that great, but there's some magnificent specimens. I'd like to see the promise of the DGS that they said they would rehab the upper field after the school used it during the renovation. And they promised that to the National Capital Planning Commission, and they never honored it. They did a quick little air rating and threw some little dirt on it this spring, but they've never gone back to it. But I would like, and I think I'd like to see it a little more natural if possible. I just, one of the things that I think is important if we want to have a generation of children who are good stewards of our natural environment is to actually give them a natural environment to grow up in. I think it will be very hard for them to respect nature if they never get to play in it. And so a way that, seems natural, even if it is carefully constructed to reduce erosion, would be important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just to update everybody quickly, you're speaking here, of course, about the erosion project. There is the ball field renovation project, which is hanging in the balance.
Well, it is not at this point necessarily coupled to that project.
Right.
DGS they stated in November that due to the council legislation, which required installation of grass field, that they would not be replacing the grass field or the track. Now, on this January 25th website posting that they didn't share with us, they said it does say that they will be replacing the track. When we posed that question to DPR and said, who decided this? The head of capital projects said it's above his pay grade, and he reports to the director. So.
Right. But just in terms of our awareness as a commission, that the clock is ticking on the temporary legislation.
Correct. It expires in April.
Right. So we're here in February. So we're here 2 months out from the time when they're supposed to complete this project according to the temporary legislation requiring it that it be a grass field. What are the contingencies here if they don't move to get the work done? And do you have any indication of when they might start to get that work done?
There is no indication that the agencies intend to comply with the law to install a grass field.
So then this commission arguably needs to be mindful of that and very observant of what's going on under your direction. You're the commissioner for the SMD, but in terms of any intervention, and our testimony potentially might need to reflect that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they are in violation of the MOU that promised grass to that field. I mean, we've checked off every box as a community. We had an MOU back in 2015. We had a parent petition with 1,200 signatures. We have 2 ANC resolutions. We had emergency legislation and then temporary legislation passed by our ward 4 council member. So, you know, if you were looking for a reason to put in a grass field, every box is checked. But like I said, even though the law requires one, the agency has said that they will not be resodding the field. I should also note that DPR has taken off of its website a lot of the standard grass sports field practices that they used to. Like I have a letter. It's actually, you can find it on a Greater Washington website. But a guy who did grounds management back in 2011, 2012, and he talked about resprigging and aerating and reseeding and all the standard, you know, grass sports fields practices. And also fields that they had resodded, and DPR's website no longer refers to those practices. And in the January 25th update on the website, DPR says only that they will mow, and they don't refer to basic like aerating and reseeding practices that they used to do. So they basically stopped doing the necessary maintenance. They did say they would have an outside contractor come look at the watering system, which they haven't turned on in 5 years. I don't know why they can't look at it themselves. I asked that at the Ward 3 and Ward 4 construction meeting, and they refused to answer that question in the chat.
So just to wrap this up on my end, but just signaling ahead our need to come back to this. It looks as though we're going to have to, as a commission, take this up again and seek redress, try to move in whatever way we all collectively think, and Commissioner Fennessy, you in particular, think is going to be most advisable. If in fact the DGS doesn't comply. We can't just sit and let it happen. In other words, and say, okay.
I mean, you go public or you go legal. Those are your 2 options at this point. They are refusing to comply with the law.
Right. So I think then, again, we should be looking at what our options are. I don't want to go into it all.
Yeah, but I mean, those are they.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any comments from the community on this topic? All right. Thank you, Commissioner Fennessy. That was a great update. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next topic, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Sherman and Gosselin. Update on the Eurofin testing of the Murray turf field. Whoever wants to take the lead on starting this out, go right ahead.
So let me go ahead and just make a motion to begin the conversation that the commission approve the expenditure of $3,932 that would be given to Eurofins, a testing lab in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to test the artificial turf products, in the plural, that Murray School is intending to use at the Episcopal Center for Children, manufactured by Shaw Sports Turf, which is located in Dalton, Georgia. So that's the motion to approve that expenditure. I had sent previously in January the proposal from Eurofins. Subsequent to that, at the January 17th meeting, we talked about it. Commissioner Gosselin expressed that he wished to do further due diligence. This was the January 10th meeting that came up. We then arranged a conversation with Eurofins on January 17th that lasted about 45 minutes, in which we asked a number of questions. Commissioner Gosselin did. I added some questions as well. And since then, we've had an exchange back and forth that has sought to sort of flesh out what the issues are and what some of the concerns are. I would present it to the commissioners as simply as I possibly can in terms of what we're asking Eurofins to do. And then Commissioner Gosselin, please feel free to come in with your concerns. I know Commissioner Fennessy has also looked into this as well. And by the way, let me just say going in that I very much appreciate, Commissioner Gosselin, your involvement, your questions, the time you've spent on this. Commissioner Fennessy as well, you've done a bit of a deep dive on this also. So I just want to acknowledge the time you spent on it and express my gratitude to you for being so involved. So what we're proposing to have Eurofins do is to conduct 2 tests. This is tests of artificial turf and related products. The substrate and so forth won't go into all depth and detail on that. But when we say products, it's not just the top surface. They would do those tests in 2 different ways. They would do a test for 40 different types of PFAS, for which testing has been developed. Now, let's keep in mind, most of you know this, that PFAS refers to a class of chemicals. There are 15,000 plus of them. They're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They've been in existence now for 4 or 5 decades. They are in virtually everything. And as a result of the manufacturing of PFAS over these many decades and the fact that they have escaped from the products that they originally were in, they've gotten into the environment everywhere. They've gotten into all of us. PFAS are now everywhere. The concern now about that is that there are identified deleterious health effects of PFAS, and therefore there are movements all over the country. State legislatures are moving to ban PFAS, different types of PFAS, municipalities, and so forth and so on. So PFAS has become somewhat the asbestos or DDT of our era in terms of this massive class of chemicals that has many harmful effects. Because there are so many of them, it's hard to identify them specifically. As I say, tests have been developed for, in this particular case, our case 40 that we would be looking at. The proxy for PFAS is fluorine. And fluorine is the fluorine atom, the carbon atom are joined together as the base of all PFAS, to which other substances are added in the manufacturing of chemicals that are used in a million different ways. To be very clear with everyone here, PFAS, with regard to artificial turf, is the chemical that the manufacturers use when they're manufacturing the plastic blades to keep the blades from sticking to the mold. It's an extrusion aid. In other words, it greases the skids, if you will. It enables this plastic to come out of that mold easily so it doesn't stick. So the PFAS can get into the artificial turf through that process, and that's the principal way in which it does get into it. However, when you're testing for PFAS in artificial turf, it doesn't matter how it gets in there exactly, whether it's intentionally added or it gets in otherwise. The fact if it's in there, and we'd be testing for it. So there are 2 different tests, one specifically for these PFAS types, 40, that we would be asking Eurofins to do, and then a total fluorine test, which again is a test that is attempting to identify elevated levels of fluorine to suggest the presence of other PFAS that are not specifically otherwise tested for. So there's a specific test and a more generic or general test for fluorine. Those are the 2. Now, let me just add this, because this came out in the conversation with Eurofins. If the test for the 40 different types of PFAS comes back and it's negative, we then have the total fluorine test. If that test comes back and it's negative, well, of course, if the total fluorine test comes back and it's negative, there's no PFAS in it, period. It doesn't matter about the 40 specific ones, but we would do both of them together to be able to determine if beyond the 40, there's some type of PFAS in the artificial turf. If the total fluorine test comes back positive, elevated levels, then we would have a decision to take a look at a refined test to determine precisely whether it's organic or inorganic fluorine, which I won't get into all the nuances of that, but we would be looking to determine if in fact this is PFAS that we need to worry about. And now, of course, no PFAS is good, but fluorine that we would need to worry about. And in the conversations with Eurofins, and with respect to what state legislatures are doing, it would be 100 parts per million that second test would have to detect for us to say there's a problem here. So simply put, there's a very specific set of tests for 40 different types of PFAS. There's a total fluorine test. That's what we'd be asking them to do. Let me just stop there, but add the following. In our conversations with Murray, and I've had a number of conversations with Trey Holloway and Dennis Biscard. Dennis Biscard is the head of school. Trey is a deputy head of school. I have told them back in December that we were looking at doing this, and I was talking to Eurofins. I've talked to them several times about this, so they're fully aware that we have the quote, we're looking at doing this, and so forth. When we go back in time with regard to our own understanding of PFAS and artificial turf and PFAS and the products that Murray would be intending to use, it has always been our understanding from the leading experts in the field. And I will name names here. Kyla Bennett, who's the head of science policy at Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility in Massachusetts, Dr. Graham Peasley, professor of physics at Notre Dame. They all have said that all artificial turf tested by independent labs, tested by universities, have shown the presence of PFAS. So it's come from good authority that this has been the case. When it first came up with respect to the products Murray was proposing to use at the Episcopal Center for Children, Commissioner Gore, you might recall that this was in December of 2023 and at a Murray task force meeting, and Trey was giving a presentation on their selection, their review. They had two different companies they were looking at the time, Field Turf and Shaw Sports Turf. You asked him the question very specifically about PFAS, and Trey indicated that both products contain PFAS. And that was our understanding at the time. It continued to be our understanding. When I held the 3 town halls looking at natural grass versus artificial turf, March 26th, April 10th, and May 30th, at the second of those town halls, the full complement of Shaw Sports Turf executives, along with Murray, were present at the town hall and spoke about their products. And they had reference to PFAS and efforts they had undertaken to determine whether there was PFAS in their products. And it was not entirely clear what they were saying in that meeting. And I've listened to it several times. I held the meeting and I've gone back and listened to it. It was then in August when we, of course, after lots of ANC conversation about PFAS and our concerns about it, artificial turf and so forth, that Murray issued a statement based on information from Shaw that the products they were proposing to use did not contain PFAS. So we asked for and received from them the test results, or a summary of the results of the test that Shaw had done. And that test was for the 40 different types of PFAS. I would note that that test, although for 40, reveals results for 39, there's one missing, which I don't know how much to make of that. The larger point, however, is that we do not have evidence of the results from a total fluorine test that could detect elevated levels of fluorine to suggest other PFAS potentially in the turf. We only have, at least all I have, is what they have provided, which is the test that shows these different specific types of PFAS. So that is the history of the project. In summary, that's a state of our understanding of where Murray and Shaw have been, the results of the tests that they have done, and the test that we're proposing now would do total fluorine, and it would do the 40 different types of PFAS. It's $3,932. The turnaround time is 2 to 3 weeks. Eurofins tells us after they get the product. So again, my motion is that the commission approve the expenditure, but I'm certainly open for comments and questions. And I know Commissioner Gosselin will undoubtedly want to weigh in here.
So thank you, Bruce. And I want to start by saying 2 things. One is that I don't object in principle to doing some testing. The question is what we should test and where we get the biggest bang for our buck. The other thing I want to say as a starter is that, as Bruce said, this area is changing. The dimensions of the threat, the way in which products are manufactured, all of this is changing. So it's very hard to get a grip on exactly what we're talking about here. What concern, I very much appreciated the meeting with Eurofin that Bruce set up. I thought we had a very productive conversation, and I spent a lot of time afterwards delving into the minutia of it. But it finally dawned on me that part of why I have problems with the proposal that we test the Murray turf is that that turf has already been tested. That Shaw turf has already been tested by the very company we're talking about hiring to check the accuracy of the tests. When we passed the resolution about this issue in September, early September of last year, one of our provisions in that resolution is that the ANC would, quote, explore options to secure independent testing of the artificial turf products Murray intends to use at ETCC. Independent testing. Well, what we're talking about here is paying $3,900. And in fact, I'll tell you in a moment that I think it's going to be more than that, to the very company that produced the results that Shaw gave to Murray and that Murray gave to this commission and to the public, so that I just don't think we're getting anything more now, anything more for having it done again. Bruce is right that the list of the tests that the specific targeted tests that Eurofin did for Shaw and that Shaw presented to Murray misses one, and that's a legitimate question where that one is. It is also the case that the information that Shaw gave Murray and Murray gave the public doesn't have the results of a total fluorine test. It says that a more specific, more targeted fluorine test was done. And I think one of the obvious questions we should ask Murray is, and what did that show? But, and that targeted test is, I think, the thing you have to understand about the total fluorine test and what this sort of more targeted version of it called an extractable organic fluorine test is that they can get us close to proving the negative, that if there are no fluorines there, then there are no PFASs there. They can't tell us anything about if they come out positive. These are not very useful tests. They're unable to tell us whether it was PFAS that caused the positive or something else. Whether if it was PFAS that caused the problem, it's something for which there is evidence there are dangers. If it was PFAS that caused the problem, it doesn't tell us anything about the concentrations or the concentrations. So that it can, if it comes back negative, in effect, prove the negative. I think, as Bruce suggested, we have to be a little careful with this because at this stage of the game, PFASs are everywhere. They are almost certainly in the clothes you're wearing right now. They are almost certainly in your bodies right now. And one of the things that motivated our debate over the summer and produced the resolution that we produced in September is the very awareness of the fact that this thing has gotten out of hand. And what we said is that what the resolution said is that this is something that has to be taken on by the district and then has to go right upstairs to the federal government. And we're going to have a terrible fight about that, given what's happening with the federal government right now. Let me suggest that I think a more effective way to pursue this issue would be to spend money hiring the same company, Eurofin, to take us through the tests they've done. One, to find out what that 40th targeted PFAS is, why that wasn't tested. Two, to give us the results of the extractable organic fluorine test. And three, to tell us, to talk to us about what the limits are if any of these tests came up against limits. I just say that with regard to the targeted tests, the 39, not the 40, the 39 results that Eurofin gave Shaw and Shaw gave Murray, they all came back measured down to parts per trillion as not detectable. No PFAS, none of those 39 PFAS compounds were detectable, even at the trillionth part per level. Here are two suggestions for a better way to spend our money. One is to hire Eurofin to help us understand the tests they've already done. But the other is to go around, to hire Eurofin to go around the community, go to the trash container outside one of the restaurants on Connecticut Avenue and pick some things out, things that are used every day, that we use every day, Coke bottles and plastic containers from Starbucks, and test those. Because if ultimately what we're looking for here, we have no regulatory authority to tell Murray to use or not use the turf. We have no regulatory authority to say we ought to expand the horizons of what is considered dangerous. What we have is shame. What we have is raising the alarms. And I suggest that a more effective way to raise the alarms would be to test the very sorts of things that are around our community, up and down our streets. Maybe you know, we could offer up some of our own clothing and let them test that too. But given that we have tests from the very testing firm that Bruce got a quote from for the, let me just say, Laura Finizzi and I had a long exchange about this, and she asked some very legitimate questions. I mean, you know, they tested a particular brand of Shaw product. Is this the brand that Murray is going to use? Right? I mean, if it's not the brand that Murray is going to use, what's the crosswalk from the brand that was tested and this brand? It may turn out that we need to do the very test that Bruce has gotten a quote for, but I think what we'd find is that, in fact, they've already done tests on that. And what we need is some help interpreting. And then what we need is some help making this a bigger issue than it is now. And I think the way to mobilize this community would be to test stuff that's in our daily lives all around the ANC.
Commissioner Sherman? You're on mute, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Commissioner Gosselin. I appreciate it. A couple of things. We're talking, of course, about testing artificial turf. We could be talking about testing all kinds of other things, but this is about artificial turf. And let me just explain for my fellow commissioners and the public why artificial turf is such an issue. It's an order of magnitude of plastic. We have to keep in mind that the installation of artificial turf at the Episcopal Center for Children is 4 acres. We have to keep in mind that we have testimony from one of the leading, if not the leading experts in the country on testing for PFAS in a range of products. Again, this is the professor of physics at the University of Notre Dame, Graham Peasley. He's quoted in almost every single major media article, the New York Times, Washington Post, so forth and so on, talking about artificial turf and the presence of PFAS in artificial turf, who gave us testimony that was from one artificial turf field, enough PFAS will leach to contaminate 800,000 gallons of groundwater per year forever, as long as the artificial turf is there. Artificial turf and the presence of PFAS in artificial turf is a hazard not only because of the things that we're also very concerned about, the way in which young athletes can ingest the PFAS as it comes off of the turf. And keep in mind too, the other problem with artificial turf is that it sheds microplastics, and PFAS in artificial turf, in microplastics, is then released into the environment that way as well. So there are multiple sources of contamination and threats to players' health and spectators' health and so forth. So we're talking about an order of magnitude issue here that has serious environmental and health consequences. It's not just any product. It's true, again, as I said, that PFAS is in many things. However, I would also make everybody aware of this. As Commissioner Gosselin has done, and undoubtedly Commissioner Fennessy has done, I've read the draft and legislation and past legislation from numerous states around the country and how they've looked at PFAS. The thrust of all that activity today is to only allow necessary uses in things like medical instruments where there's no substitute product that can be used. Of course, in the context here of artificial turf, we go back to our basic proposition of arguing for properly designed, built, and maintained natural grass fields. That's really what is our ideal outcome. We proposed that, of course, to Murray. They've said no. They intend to install artificial turf. They once told us that it had PFAS in it. They since have told us that it doesn't have PFAS in it. When we passed our resolution, we said we'd explore for the testing. That's why we're doing it now. As to the test and working with Shaw or Murray, Eurofins is not going to share that information without Murray and Shaw's involvement. We don't have the total fluorine test. I'm not sure exactly if it was done or how it was done. But what I would say is, regardless, I'm proposing that we ask Shaw through Murray to supply the exact products, not similar, not analogous products, but the exact products that Murray is proposing to use, and that we test them for total fluorine and for the very specific 40 different types of PFAS, as I've indicated, so that we can do this. And here's where I ask the understanding, the indulgence, and dare I say, even the compassion of my fellow commissioners. If you were living next to this field, knowing what we know, that all artificial turf tested by independent labs to date has been found to have PFAS, and knowing that it leaches, that's how it's in our bodies. It's a man-made chemical. It doesn't naturally occur in the environment. We only have PFAS in the air, in the environment, in our bodies, because it's come out of products that it was in at one time. We're trying to prevent this from happening further in our neighborhood. So I would ask you, if you were living next to this field, knowing what can happen, would you not want to know whether or not there was PFAS next to your house in the quantities we're talking about here?
Can I just respond in two ways? One is this: we have before us a test by the very firm you would have us hire.
We don't have a total fluorine test, Peter.
Oh, no, but the one has been done. As you
No, I'm
remember,
not sure it's been done.
as you remember from our conversation with John Thorne of Eurofins, he talked about the total fluorine test, and he said it could produce false positives, and he said that if it did produce false positives, then we should go to the more exact extractable organic fluorine test. And at least as that Shaw statement sent to Murray says, an EOF was done. Why not, before we spend the money, we A, get the extractable organic fluorine test results, and B, ask the very company that we are talking about hiring to redo all the tests what what they tested, what product they tested, whether they tested all the layers, where the 40th targeted substance is, and what the results were of the extractable organic fluorine test. Just for a moment, Bruce, imagine, you asked for compassion. Imagine the compassion we would show if we became convinced that these tests already done, after consulting with Eurofins, the very firm you would have us hire, tells us this: the targeted tests show no detectable limit of PFAS down to trillionths of a part, and the EOF shows no fluorine down to a couple millionths of a part. That would be evidence that there's no PFAS there. So that, yes, if a field has PFAS in it, if an artificial turf field has PFAS in it, Peasley may be right. There are these runoffs that are terrible, but we already have the very tests you're proposing we do done, or we may have it done. Look, we may not. It may turn out it was a different product. It may turn out that 40th targeted test was they're hiding from us. It may turn out that they didn't do all the layers. That's all fine. I'm willing to spend money getting bearing down on that. But ultimately, if it turns out that the tests have already been done and we just need to understand them better, and we need to have the answer to the total fluorine, and it's more, the EOF test that's part of the total fluorine test. If it turns out those are good tests, then it still seems to me there's a place to test and a place to take the case that we've got to do something about PFASs in this community, not just at Murray, but at St. John's and at Blessed Sacrament, and that the district, the largest user of artificial turf in the city, presumably, needs to do something about that. And that is to raise awareness about this problem. And as I'm saying, I think there are other places to test. I do think we need to get all this information about the tests that were done, but the notion of just repeating them with the same testing service doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, so for example, what would happen?
I'll address that. I know Commissioner Fennessy wants to get in the conversation then.
Laura,
Can I come in? Okay. All right. Thank you. And I'm sorry. This is like such a cool geek conversation. It's really nice that you guys are so invested in going into the weeds. That's a bad metaphor. Okay. But anyway, yeah, when I looked at the letter that I saw from August, it didn't, the test results that were appended to it were a simulated runoff test. They didn't seem to be a test of the actual material itself. So maybe I'm not looking at the right document or didn't get it because I wasn't a commissioner before, but that it would listed what I thought were 40. I didn't count them. So maybe it's 39, but it looked like a simulated runoff test, which I thought was interesting, but not the same as testing the material. It also, they said, they tested certain products that are similar to the field by Murray School. And that was one of my questions, like, why would we look at things that are similar, right? I mean, similar is only similar. It's not exactly the same. They also, my question was in that letter, they said that the turf was not produced with any PFAS based materials, including the extrusion processing aids, which is usually where the PFAS comes from. But it doesn't necessarily rule out that PFAS might be a product. So, I mean, I think if we could, and then I looked on their website because the letter referred to Legion 2.0, and there was no Legion 2.0 on the Shaw website. Like there was Legion Pro and Legion NXT, and none of them mentioned being PFAS free. And I would think that if they were PFAS free, that they would post that, bright and shiny. So I think, to Peter's point, if we don't know, that we need to find out if the test results that are kind of missing, there's some gaps, if they exist somewhere and we don't have them, I think that might be a first stop because then we wouldn't have to recreate the wheel. But if they don't exist, then I would be in favor of testing, just because I think that this is, like other chemicals, and I emailed you all, but we had a smoking room in my high school for seniors. So there are other things that have been seen to be safe, but are no longer.
Yeah, let me just say to Laura's point, we absolutely we need answers to all of these questions. If they tested something that was kind of sort of like what Murray has bought and is going to put down, well then let's test the thing that the Murray has bought and is going to put down. If it turns out that there's a reason there are these gaps, like for example, the 40th test really was bad, well then we need to know that. And as for the total fluorine, and this specialized version of the total fluorine test that I think is where John Thorne of Eurofins, who Bruce and I spoke to, said we were going if we did the total fluorine test, because it eliminates a whole range of false positives. If we have a result from it and it turns out to be a bad, if we can get the result from Murray and it turns out to be a bad result, that indicates that there are other PFASs besides the 39 or 40 that were tested for in a targeted way, well then we need to do that ourselves. I'm all for that. But right now, we have the very testing service that Bruce has gotten a quote from saying they've done these tests, they have results, they've given us some results. And Laura, I think this is not a simulated runoff test, but look, that's a completely legitimate question. We need to answer that question. But we have the very tests that the firm that Bruce would have us pay to do the test have done on a product, and we should find out about those results first, it seems to me, before we make a decision about testing.
I know we want to get others in here. I just want to respond before we get too far down the road. What Commissioner Fennessy is mentioning is critical, and I think we have to take this tonight under advisement. It does appear to be not the test that we're looking at doing. It was a runoff test. Now, that's a legitimate test in terms of looking at the leaching aspects that I've referred to, but it's not the test that we're proposing to do. It's also the case that the results that might then come from that would not be as a result of the test we're proposing to do, with material provided that is not what Murray is proposing to use exactly. So there are three derivatives away from what we're proposing to do that, Commissioner Gosselin, you say we should go back and talk to Shaw and Murray and negotiate with them. Keep in mind that Eurofins won't share, due to confidentiality, any of the results without Murray and Shaw's concurrence. And the other thing I would say, again, these are not the same tests. I want to make that very clear. And I also want to say that we have a time issue here, which I've referred to. And we have limited amount of bandwidth on this commission to continue to discuss this. I would prefer that we move forward, we do this test, we get the results, we see where that takes us. If we're talking about engaging Murray and Shaw and getting their results and so forth and so on, I don't even know how that works. I don't even know what that looks like, because of the proprietary and confidential nature of the testing that they did and the relationship they have with Eurofins, who won't say anything about their testing specifically for Murray.
Could I just respond to that? I know there are a bunch of hands up, but honestly, if there's a time issue, I mean, you really think that Murray is going to say, "Oh no, we're not going to give you these results"? And you think if Murray says they're going to give the results, that Eurofin Shaw is going to say, "Oh, we wouldn't give those results"? I mean, the fastest route to solve this problem is write a note to Murray and
It's not the same test, Peter. That's what we're trying to tell you.
No, you don't know that. You don't know that. It's
Peter, it says it on the document. Laura, Commissioner Fennessy just referred to it. It's a runoff test.
I don't think it is, but
it says it because of the way they express the results. Read the results. I understand what you're attempting to do, And I understand where you're going, and it does seem, of course, Eurofins did the test for them, and why it's not the same thing, it's not the same material. So we're talking at the end of the day about apples and oranges here. The other thing that I also want to make very clear about this, we're an independent body. We should be conducting our own tests to satisfy our curiosity so that what we do is free from any other process that's gone on that we had no control over, that we were not guiding. And it's something that we ourselves should satisfy our curiosity on.
And I
Well,
want
if
to
it's
jump
stronger
in.
to
I
satisfy our
want to jump in.
curiosity than it does if there's this need to act fast, why not write a note tomorrow to
Yeah.
Dawn Murray and ask for the damn results? I mean,
It's
that's
not the same test, Peter. That's what we're
Yeah.
trying to tell you.
So I want to
Commissioner-
jump in here. I want to jump in here. I understand the PFAS and I'm gonna practice brevity, but what is the end result after we test this? Are we stopping Murray? Are we gonna have a citywide campaign to stop turf fields? Because I think we're spending a lot of time on this. We're gonna test it. What if it says it's positive? What are we gonna do? Is it just something to have to know that it's positive and it's across the street from your home? What is the end result? Because I think we don't have an end result. Can we stop Murray? Can we stop the city? Are we going to start a citywide campaign to stop PFAS? Because if it's already at Blessed Sacrament and St. John's, it's already in our underground water. So what are we going to do?
And I can answer that, Corinthia. The fact is that we have, I believe, a duty to our community not to add any more of it into the environment. And for those people who are living adjacent to the field, I come back to you and ask, if you were living next door and you knew there was this prospect, would you not want to know?
I will already know. It's turf fields all across the city. So there is some shadow of a doubt that it's already going to be, even if it's in front of my home, 500 feet, it's already going to be there. It's like if we eat our food knowing that it's causing cancer, are you just not going to eat? You're still going to eat and do other things to mitigate and reduce your risk from getting cancer. So I'm just wondering what is the end result? Because we're spending a lot of time at this. It's 9/22. What's the end result? We can test it and spend the money and deal with it then, but I don't know. Is it just going to stop one field? I mean, can we stop Murray from not building their field, even if it hasn't in there?
We have an obligation, I've said this before, to verify what they've told us.
But we
And
already know it's going to probably have PFAS in it. It's
we
PFAS
don't,
in everything. That's just the general assumption.
well, I understand that point, but we actually have to proceed, it seems to me, to test this specific case in deference to the concerns of our neighbors who are very concerned about the contamination. I know there's one in the conversation. Commissioner Grunwald.
Yes, Commissioner Sherman, when exactly is Murray installing the turf? And how long will it take to do the tests that you are asking for?
Once they receive the material, it'll take 2 to 3 weeks. They tell us when Murray's installing the turf is somewhat weather dependent. They aim to have the field done by mid-April. They told us in the last task force meeting that would be moved probably now till they were aiming to finish in mid-March. They were hoping to now they're hoping to finish by mid-April. When the turf actually goes down is again weather dependent and so forth. But I would imagine that in the month of March or fairly soon, they are aiming to install the turf based on the schedule as I understand it.
When is the turf going to be delivered? When are they buying it?
Well, they've probably purchased it already. It's not on site as far as I can see. So I don't know when it's going to be delivered.
How long will the test take?
Well, 2 to 3 weeks after they get the product.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nagy. You're on mute.
Can't hear you.
I don't want to make a lot of noise in between. Sorry. Thank you. It seems to me that the argument that there's already PFAS in the environment doesn't really, and forgive the pun, hold water. Just because you know there are toxic substances in the world doesn't mean you need to add to them or to add to people's toxic load. I do understand the point. I don't agree with it. It also seems to me that time is of the essence at this point, that the longer we dither about what we're going to do about this, the more circumstances will overtake us. And we really need to make a decision about testing in the very, very near future. We keep putting this off. I personally think that after I've looked at all of this, I think we should go ahead and test the actual material that they will be laying down. It doesn't particularly concern me that Eurofins will be doing the testing. If it is in fact a different test, then I don't see any particular problem with it. I thought that I had heard that we had asked Murray for more of their testing results and they had declined. I perhaps misunderstood that. I see that Commissioner Gore is shaking her head and I don't know why. Okay. And so I also note that Trey Holloway is in the audience tonight. So if there are questions that we wanted to ask, he's right there. We can ask him if you would care to answer. I think that the value of knowing what's going to be on that turf is worth this effort. And I think that Murray should know what's going to be on this turf. They should know that for the health of the community. They should know that for the health of their own students, many of whom live in the community. I just think we should get on with it.
Commissioner Gore.
Sure, thank you. This has been a great discussion, and I really appreciate the commissioners that have been doing the deep dive in this. Commissioner Sherman, Gosselin, and Fennessy, I appreciate your expertise and everything that you've learned and conveying that to the commission. My concern is with a couple of things. Commissioner Gosselin says that it was not a runoff test, or he believes it was not a runoff test. Commissioner Sherman, you say you think that it was. So it just seems like, and then, you know, what we do not have the full complement of the tests run by Murray. You know, there has been no official ask by this ANC for those test products. So I don't know if there was a single member district commissioner asked, but there was certainly not an ask by this ANC body. So to me, that would be a first step. Murray has the option of either agreeing to turn that information over to us or not. But we certainly have not asked for it. And it seems like to me that would be a first step. I come from an IG community. Oversight is a big issue. And I'm just, you know, the more I hear, the more I'm leery of spending public dollars when I don't have the full answers and where there might be an opportunity to get the results and get answers without spending public dollars. We've already agreed to what, $3,900? That's a lot of money. And at the top of the meeting, we're talking about trying to hire an admin assistant. We don't have an endless supply of money. And then is the additional test, if it comes up positive or potentially positive, as Commissioner Gosselin was talking about, on the total fluoride, and we have to venture into another test to further, you know, examine that result, how much is that going to cost the ANC? And not that I'm opposed to spending those funds as a commission, but I think we need to exhaust our avenues first. It would not take us or cost us a lot of time to draft a demand letter to Murray and ask for that information. And if Murray agreed to do it, I'm sure Shaw would turn it over. So those are my concerns. I wish we had the testing company here. This is, you know, sometimes why I like special meetings. This would be a special meeting because I just have too many, you know, conflicting information between the two accounts to really understand fully what's going on, and if I could get this test information at a cheaper cost to the public.
Thank you. Commissioner Grunwald and Nagy.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Murray has not tested the exact material to be used. Is that correct?
What we understand from the test as the results that were given to us, it's a product that was similar.
Right. It's not
I,
the,
I can read from the release, the statement. But yes, and
Right.
yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to say is Murray has not volunteered any testing results, have they?
Yes.
I mean, they know that our community is very concerned about PFAS, right? So if the material that they plan to use doesn't contain any, wouldn't they be sharing those results with?
They did share a
saying-
summary. They shared a summary in August when they released a statement that based on the test results from Shaw, that the products they were intending to use did not contain PFAS. They released a summary document that contains the results of the test of the specific types of PFAS that we've referred to, the 39 that they identified. That was released to the public.
I sent that to you, Carol. I sent
Yes,
that.
yes, I'm just clarifying this for everyone. But they did not test the material that they're actually going to use, correct?
That's what we don't know. We don't know. I mean, you know, we keep talking about this ask of Murray and this ask of Shaw as if it's some sort of formal thing that we could do this tomorrow morning. I mean,
You can
we could have an answer
it
by
tonight.
tomorrow night. I mean, we're like, why?
You
Why?
can do it tonight. He's there.
Yeah,
He's
you
in
know.
the audience. Ask Trey Holloway. He's right there. Let's move this project along.
Trey, if you'd like to join the conversation, feel free.
And I don't know if Trey has the official capacity to make the agreement.
Well, let's ask him. Let's ask him. There he is.
Yeah.
Hi, Trey.
I'd be happy to say something, which is just that the testing that Shaw did on their turf products was not testing that was done at the request of Murray. It was something that they did for their own purposes, likely some commercial business purpose that they feel that they have. There are not additional test results that Murray has. If there are additional tests that were done, they could be requested of Shaw, but Murray doesn't have them. They weren't done at the school's request.
Okay, Trey, will you work with me tomorrow morning to get a request to Shaw asking for these 3 questions right off the bat? And Bruce, edit as you see fit. 1, where's the 40th targeted test? 2, what was the result of the EOF test that the release that you sent out to the public from Shaw said Eurofin did? And 3, what is the relationship between the product they tested and the product Murray intends to use? And I guess 4, was this a simulated runoff test? Was this a product off the production line test? What is the method of testing? Would you agree to help to?
Murray has no objections to Shaw answering those questions at all.
So, Bruce, I am perfectly happy to either with you or on my own write to Shaw tomorrow morning via email, asking those 4 questions and any other questions you might have. You talk about speed. This is speed.
Peter, I just want to clarify and and I appreciate Trey. Thank you for coming on. You weren't on the docket here, so I appreciate your being available to come on and answer the questions. I just want, since I'm learning in real time as everyone else is with respect to what Trey just noted, if I understood Trey correctly, he indicated that the tests were not done at Murray's request. They were tests that Shaw had done on a product that, as I've read the release, is similar, but it wasn't the product that Murray specifically was using. So when we're asking, to be very clear, for test results, it's for something else.
I do that.
Can I
just establish?
I'd like to talk, please.
Yeah, please go ahead, Commissioner Nagy.
Okay, I would love it if Trey would come back on. Because what I'd like to ask is, what is the actual product that Murray is going to use? And let's be talking about that, not similar products, not like products, not anything that is not the exact product that Murray is buying for its turf field. We need to start from that baseline. Hi, Trey. Thank you again for coming on.
Sure.
Can we do that?
Product.
I mean, we don't even, can you tell us, like now, here, what is the actual product that Murray is planning to use on the field? What is the name of it? Is there a model number? I mean, you'll have to help me there.
Legion NXT 2.0. I think
Okay.
if you want to get the specifics, I mean, Shaw is probably the best folks to say, all right, like how can I take that to what I see on the website or something like that?
So you said Legion NXT 2.0?
2.0.
2.0?
Yeah,
Does
man.
that ring a bell for the people who've been doing the deep dive?
I haven't had the exact, and maybe Trey, if you provided that sometime previously, I didn't note it. I didn't have the model number and the actual
So
product.
do we have the test results for that actual product, Trey?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Shaw that.
Okay, but you don't have the test results.
Yeah, no.
Or do you?
What we have is what we publicly released in August. That is the extent. You have everything that Murray has.
Okay. Did you always intend to use this product? Did you switch products somehow, some time during the process? That happens sometimes, that you think you're gonna do one thing and you do something different? Is this always the product you intended to use?
Going back almost around 12 months now, yes.
But before that, maybe something else. So is that possible?
Well, we were assessing different vendors. I mean, we made our final decision about a vendor roughly 12 months ago.
But as to Shaw, it's only ever been this product. Yes?
I
just wanna make sure that we're all
to
talking
answer
about the same
truthfully,
thing.
I do not recall
Okay.
what all products we were considering.
Okay, thanks. But this is the current product, and I just want to make sure we're all talking about, we're all on the same page about what product y'all are planning to put down on the field, and it's this one. Okay, that's
Could I make a
what I wanted to
motion?
know. Thank you so much. I really
Mhm.
appreciate your help.
I make a motion that maybe will bridge this, which is something like this, that ANC 34G.
By the way, I have a motion on the floor for conversation. So if
Oh,
you're,
I'm sorry.
yeah, so the
all right.
motion as I've proposed it is to,
Well, then let me offer a friendly amendment, which is that we amend your motion to hire Shaw to do the test in the following way, that
hire Eurofins.
Eurofin, I'm sorry, we authorize, the ANC authorize you and me to write to Shaw tomorrow morning, asking the questions that I just recited. Where is the 40th targeted test? What is the result of the OF test? What kind of test was this? Is it a simulated runoff, or was it the kind of test that's pulling the product straight from the production line? Did it test all layers of the product? And
What is the relationship between what they tested and what Murray?
yes, and what is the relationship between what they tested and Legion EX
NXT 2.0?
2.0? And that if we do not get an answer, or we do not, if we do not get an answer, or we do not get full cooperation, then we will move directly to hiring Eurofin to do the test.
I just have to counsel that, and I think we should consult the Murray release to note specifically what Shaw has already said. It's not guesswork. They've already identified what the test results were for. And Trey has indicated here that his understanding is it wasn't Murray asking to test the product they're going to be using. It's Shaw offering test results from what I believe the release indicates is a similar product. So let's be very clear. We can ask them for this, but there are several very serious deficiencies that we know.
We don't know whether they're deficiencies or not, do we?
We
I
know
mean,
it's not the same product, Peter.
you mean it doesn't have the same brand name? Who knows? I mean,
That's not what, that's not, I don't think that's what,
You're asking to go back and get test results for a product that's not what Murray is purchasing, or they would have
Can
said
I-
that.
Commissioner, hang on a minute, Commissioner, point of order. There's been a friendly amendment offered. Do you accept it or not?
Restate the friendly amendment.
that ANC 34G authorizes Commissioners Bruce Sherman and Peter Goslin to contact Shaw Industries on Tuesday, February 12th, and ask for answers to the following questions. I hope somebody is taking this down. I mean,
I am. Keep going.
Where is the 40th targeted test? 2, what was the result of the EOF test? 3, what was the nature of the test? Simulated runoff, straight from production line, or some other? 4, were all components of the turf, and I understand these are sort of layered cake constructions, were all components tested?
And 5, what is the
I
relationship?
mean, what is the relationship, or what is the difference between whatever the product was that these test results were from, and the product that Murray intends to use on the ECC field? If we do not get an answer in 24 hours, or if we do not get an answer in 24 hours, the commission will move to hire Eurofriends to test the product. Does that capture it?
can I?
No, we
say
have.
Let's
Point of
just,
order.
Bruce accept that?
Got a friendly amendment. We need to address the amendment first. Is Commissioner Sherman, it's in your bag if you accept the amendment or not.
No, I don't.
Okay,
Can I?
so I call for the vote. Commissioner Sherman, repeat.
Point of order, I wanted to make a point.
What's
Maybe
your
it's-
point of order?
Pardon?
What's your point of order?
My point is that you're cutting off debate, and I have something I want to say about Commissioner Sherman's, about the friendly amendment and about the, and-
Okay, he didn't accept the friendly amendment, so the motion is on his original motion. He didn't accept it.
Okay, then I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
Okay,
Okay, my amendment is that we ask, if we're going to write any kind of letter to Shaw, that we ask them for the testing on the product that Murray is actually going to put down. I don't see any value in asking them to explain or extrapolate about testing on products that are not actually going to be placed on the field. So I move that we ask them, if we're going to do a letter, I move that we ask them for the testing on the actual product that Murray is using, which we now know.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yeah, let me come back with a point of clarification here to try to move this to conclusion. So I have the release from Shaw Sports Turf dated August 7th that I'll read from, just so that we have this information squarely in front of us. And this is to Trey, dated August 7th. Dear Mr. Holloway, thank you for your inquiry regarding the Murray School's recent purchase of a Shaw Sports Turf Legion turf field product. As described in more detail below, I can confirm that this turf field product was not produced with PFAS-based materials. PFAS chemicals are one of the many substances that require our supply partners to disclose the presence of in raw materials, components, and finished goods purchased by Shaw. Based on information provided by suppliers at the time of manufacture, we are confident the Legion turf field purchased by Murray School was not produced with any PFAS-based materials, inclusive of the extrusion processing aids used to produce the fibers for this field. Please note that Shaw also performs periodic independent third-party laboratory testing of its sports field products to confirm declarations made by suppliers, including certain testing for individual PFAS chemical analysis and extractable organic fluorine, EOF testing. The results of testing certain Legion turf field products manufactured by Shaw that are similar to the field purchased by Murray School have consistently confirmed that PFAS chemicals are not intentionally added to its sports turf field products. In addition to periodic turf field product testing, Shaw has also performed a simulated rainwater runoff test for its Legion 2.0 turf field product. While this type of testing is still evolving, it does not represent what will happen in situ. The results of this runoff simulation test were non-detectable for the included PFAS analytes. Hopefully, this provides you with additional information. A summary of this test is attached for convenience. So what we have in this statement are three different things. We have the statement that the suppliers to Murray have affirmed that the products did not on manufacturer contain PFAS. And based on that, they're confident that the Legion turf field purchased by Murray School was not produced with any PFAS-based materials. So the statement indicates they're relying on statements of their suppliers. They then indicate they do periodic independent third-party testing. The results of testing certain Legion turf field products by Shaw that are similar to the field purchased by Murray, not the same product, have consistently confirmed that PFAS chemicals are not intentionally added. And we have to come back to intentionally added. And then they talk about the simulated rainwater runoff test for the Legion 2.0 turf field. So we have substantial additional information there to go on to indicate that what we would be asking them for is more complex than we were just discussing because of the affirmations made by suppliers to them of products, that indeed what we're looking at here in terms of the specific 39 different types of PFAS were probably from that rainwater runoff test that they refer to in the statement. And then in terms of their other independent testing, they're testing to indicate not intentionally added PFAS. And that intentionally added PFAS is a separate category of consideration that we probably don't have time to go into right now. I would only say this: whether a product has intentionally added PFAS or not, if there's PFAS in the product, that's all we're concerned about. So I want us to be very clear. It is not as simple as going back to Shaw and asking them for what we thought was the test that they've already run and then the rest, because we're going to have to ask for multiple different types of tests coming from their suppliers, which they'll have to procure somehow. This is going to be, going this route, a very protracted, complicated process that gets us into areas that I think are far beyond what we had envisioned doing here, when I simply propose that we test the very product they're going to use by an independent lab, that whether they've done other testing for Shaw in the past, they don't confirm that, but in fact, if they have, that's fine, is irrelevant to this specific circumstance, because we're asking that this product be tested now for the amount of money that I've indicated. That's my motion. That's what I'm moving. Commissioner Nagy, then Commissioner Gosselin. You're muted, Liz.
Why don't we
I
take
shouldn't
it?
keep muting myself. I'm sorry. I won't anymore. I withdraw my motion to amend your motion.
Okay, you have an amendment. You have a friendly amendment.
No.
I had the friendly amendment for the letter, and I'm withdrawing it.
Okay. Commissioner Gosselin.
I would just say, I think that, no, let me not say anything. Let's just take a vote. Can we move this to a vote?
Yeah.
Laura seems to have disappeared. So
Yeah.
there we go.
There she is.
Okay. Is there a second on Commissioner Sherman's motion? Seconded by Commissioner Grunwald. Commissioners, all those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Commissioners, all opposed, raise your hand. 1. Abstentions? 2, 4, 1, 2. Okay, motion passes. All right, thank you, commissioners.
Sorry, excuse me, Lisa, 4 in favor, 1 no, 2 abstentions? Or
Yeah.
was it the other way? 2 no's, 1 abstention.
4, 1, 2.
4 no, 1 no, 2 abstentions. Okay.
Yep. All right, we're gonna
Thank
move
you.
on. Yep.
Yes, I have tests. I have a bunch of scans I have to do, medical scans I have to do tomorrow. And so unless we have something else to vote on, I think I'm going to bow out.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in with us.
Amy.
Thank you.
Do well on your test tomorrow.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Okay, Commissioner Nagy, do you want to do your discussion on the ANC-wide postcard mail?
Oh, sorry. Wow. Yeah, well, it's very short. I would like to send out an agency-wide postcard that the content of which can be refined, but the basic premise is that we send a postcard to every household in the ANC, asking them for their contact information, leaving some room for what their principal concerns are. It's very, very hard to reach everyone in the ANC. We have very incomplete email lists. I don't see much way of getting them other than doing this postcard. And I think it can be done reasonably economically, because if we do the whole ANC, we ought to be able to use the post office's, I forget what it's called, direct mail
Direct mail.
kind of feature.
So we used that once before and it was about $10,000, just to give you guys a budget. I mean, I don't have an objection to that. I would ask that if you want to take the lead on this, to work that budget up,
Sure.
so that when we vote on an expenditure, we know exactly how much we're going to expend. And that would include the cost of obviously the production, paper costs and all that. So you got it.
Yep.
Last time we did it, we did actually I made up the postcard. So we saved money by doing a postcard ourselves in Canva. And we just took it to the mailer. Now I'm going to say this, there's a lot of work when you do that, because it took us probably about a couple days. We had to do a couple trips to the post office. We had to hand put the information on. Everybody is going to have to participate. So let me just say that it was not very easy
Lisa,
to get done.
can I just ask, when you did the postcards, thank you for sharing that. When you did the postcards, you printed them up yourself, or you just did the design?
I think both.
Okay.
And we could go back to the records, but if I'm not mistaken, we did the design, then had a printer. Well, let me see. Yeah, we had a printer print them, and then we had to put the mailing labels on the card. That was the absolute cheapest way to do it, as opposed to going to a direct mailer and just giving them the artwork and letting them run the labels. But if you go through the post office and do it, through that direct mail, and we actually have an ANC account, we already got that established because we've done it before. I'm just saying it's some hands-on work that we're going to have to do as an ANC.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to take the lead and try to figure this out. I know other people have done postcard mailings, so maybe they can pitch in with their thoughts about how best to accomplish this, and I'm certainly happy to follow through.
Commissioner Grunwald?
Yeah, hi. So several of us did that during our campaign, sent out postcards. And so if every commissioner from each SMD puts on their own labels, that would be very helpful, right? We
Oh,
could
for
all,
sure. Mhm.
we would all just do that, I guess.
And I mean, depending on the cost, it might, my mailers that I've used before, I mean, if you do them for a single member district commissioner, maybe someone has a mailer that can produce this quicker and easier than we did with the post office. So I think we
Well,
should explore all those options.
I actually have some ideas about that. I think it might be wise to go to some of the services and see how much they would charge.
Yeah. Yeah. Commissioner Simmons?
Yeah, I got
I
a couple
have some
things.
ideas.
The first
Sorry,
thing I
Bruce.
have is we have to be cognizant. We want to hire an admin assistant. I'm assuming we're not going to pay them minimum wage. And just the discussions we've been having about things that we want them to do, we're going to basically want them to run this commission. So, like it was mentioned earlier, we don't have infinite money. And then the second thing is, what are we? So for me, I intend to still engage with my residents, my constituents. I don't think I would participate in the postcard mailing because I plan on still going door to door. And then I can also ask them what their concerns are. I walked to pick up my son from school. I was talking with one of my constituents on the walk. He was 85 and we had a good talk for about a couple blocks. So for me, I don't think I would think that would be the best use of funds, especially if we want to have this admin assistant come on board, and we don't know what their billable hours are going to be. I don't know if we have the rate that we're going to charge them. So I think we just kind of got to think about that. So I'm not really sure I want to be a part of the ANC just to gather emails.
Commissioner Nagy?
Well, why don't we find out how much it would cost first? And I guess I'm thinking that there's really no harm in finding out what the emails and addresses and contact information are for all of the SMDs. I don't understand why we would leave one of the SMDs out. We've been talking for a while, since actually the election, when we were just talking among ourselves about getting a comprehensive read of who's in our ANC and how we contact them.
I unfortunately wasn't a part of that
If you want, I'm
conversation.
still finished. Excuse me, I haven't finished speaking. Thank you. If you want to be left out, it's okay with me.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a part of the conversation earlier about what you mentioned. So I mean, I don't know if that was with others and not me. I must have missed that one. But I'm not saying we shouldn't spend it. I'm just saying being cognizant of our funds. We don't have an open checkbook. And if we want to do something, we have to approve it. So I'm okay with you finding out the cost of it. What I'm saying is to save money, you don't have to include mine.
I didn't understand that that's what you meant. Thank you for clarifying.
Commissioner Grunwald?
Yeah, during the campaign, I went to not all of my houses, but most of them. And, I guess I could do that again to collect emails, but sure would be a lot easier to send out a postcard and then so I can visit my constituents at my leisure instead of having to rush and get 700 households right away. That's a lot. I think having a postcard would be terrific.
I think, Bruce, what have you done? You send out your surveys, you get 400 responses. I don't know how many people are on your listserv. I don't know if you sent out mailers, but how have you gathered a lot of your constituents on? And I don't know how many Lisa may have. I don't know if you can add. Peter has dropped off. So I mean, I inherited addresses, and I still go around get addresses. So I don't know if you senior folks would like to chime in on that.
Go ahead, Elisa, if you want. I'll follow you.
I do. I go door to door. I mean, I was door to door the day after we got sworn in, so I'm still doing that. And oh, I inherited no official list. It's lists that I've built over the course of years. I'm actually now going street to street. So there's some streets where I have 100%. There's some streets that I don't, but I definitely have a couple hundred. But I still, need to get a lot more on my list. Honestly, with the first postcard and the response that we got, not a great response, but that was, obviously designated for the Civic Corps. But I do think the best way to get emails is the door to door. I can tell you on one particular project, which was Greenville, that it took me, and I probably had about 75% of the emails of everybody on Greenville, but it took me 3 days just to get the remaining. And the last person that I did not have, thank goodness he came to the walkthrough, and I was like, "You're the last person that I need." So the direct contact and door to door seems to be, the most effective, not necessarily the most efficient. And I think that's where we're struggling because
Yeah.
it's tough. And I want to,
I
get
agree with that.
everybody because I know we have the civic core issues coming up. But let me just add that I agree with, both Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Nagy. I think it's really important that we get as much to 100% of all of our email addresses as we can. With mailers, bulk is king. So we wouldn't want to cut anybody's list because the more addresses we have, the more bulk discount we get, as well as we're going to get more of a discount if we do 2 mailers than versus 1 mailer. But the one thing I want us to be definitely cognizant about is reworking the budget. I think Commissioner Simmons is spot on. We have right now a lot of unknown costs, and we will have to redo the budget to see where we put that money and where we're going to take it out. So that's one thing. And I do want us to think about and consider that we have the disposition hearing from DMPED that's probably going to come up in March. And do we want to maybe somehow combine the mailer with letting our community know about the disposition hearing, the Civic Core choices, and signing up on the newsletter? So I think there's a couple of things that we need to take into consideration, but I do think this is a conversation that we need to have and, need to probably move forward on and getting it together.
Yeah.
Commissioner Nagy?
I really agree that the time is of the essence here. With the Civic Core coming up, it's really, really important that we figure out how to reach out to our constituents quickly and effectively. And maybe it's a combination of going door to door and sending out postcards, whatever it takes, but they need to be apprised of what's going on. And the city's moving at a very fast clip, and they're not slowing down. They're not going to slow down pretty much in all likelihood. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think they're trying to make this go as fast as they can. So I really think we need to just move forward and attack this from different avenues. We can attack it from door to door, postcards, mass mailings. I just don't think we can waste much time trying to sort this out. I think we just have to start doing a bunch of different things and see how it works out. Looking at a bunch of different ways to get community engagement and seeing how best we can do it. It's not going to be perfect, but we really need to start trying.
I agree. So as a commission, I don't know if we want to vote on it or not, or just come to agreement that Commissioner Nagy can go on and get started on this and, get us the details and the potential expenses And I agree with you. One of the things I really, really hope does not happen on the commission is that we are not in a position to move when the disposition hearing is pending. I just think that's critical. That, you know, there's one mailer that we got to do. It's we got to alert the community to that hearing or alert them to the choices, surveys, whatever is going on, so that, you know, we can say that we've done 100% our duties. And like you said, Commissioner Nagy, it doesn't prevent us, you know, from going door to door, you know, doing our own, you know, emailers and whatever else we need to do. But I want us to be in a position to be able to do that. And all of this takes some time to get there. So I think we need to get started.
I just want to clarify what the motion actually still is on the table, because I think it's just, we can
Well, right
amend
now-
it, but I'm not sure what it is.
So right now, I don't think anyone has put a motion on the floor. I was asking if the commissioners wanted a particular motion to get started, or if we're just in consensus agreement. I don't think we really need a motion. I think
Okay.
we're all in consensus. So Commissioner Fennessy is saying no motion, just move. I think we're
Okay.
pretty much in consensus to go on and get started on this.
Okay, so the consensus is that I will explore how much it will cost to do an ANC-wide postcard,
Yeah,
and we'll go from there.
yeah.
Okay. Do I need to, any reason we have to wait till the next ANC meeting for me to get back to y'all?
No. Mm-mm.
No. Okay, good.
But I think in order for us to expend the funds, we need to approve it in an ANC meeting.
No, I understand. No,
Okay.
I just with the estimates, that's all.
Right.
Not with any money being spent, just to let everybody know how much it's gonna cost.
Absolutely. Okay, commissioners, let's move on to community announcements before we lose more commissioners. Commissioner Fennessy, are there any in the chat?
I had a question. Do you know if DC Water's done at Pinehurst Circle? Because there's a big bunch of gravel and rocks left there. And it looks like a mess, but all the signs and notifications of the project are gone. But there's probably a good a ton of gravel and stuff just dumped, like half a dump truck full of stuff just left there on the grass. Let's see, we had.
I'll get with Emmanuel about that.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back here before all the PFAS stuff. Ward 4 Volunteer Corps, there was something from Barbara Rogers with Janice Lewis George's office for that. There was let me see, and maybe back to Barbara's, you know, she's having the rescheduled February 22nd because of the weather. She's already been in contact with about snowplow service, particularly places that got delayed last time. Every Wednesday, Fort Stevens, 12 to 1 p.m. The Ward 4 office hours. Yes, and the new chat with Ward 4 is Saturday, 22nd from 10 a.m. to noon at Knollwood.
Okay, great. Okay. Commissioners, do you all have any announcements?
Just to reiterate the appeal, and we don't have that many people on the call now, so it's really appealed to all of us. I did put it in my newsletter to all my folks yesterday to volunteer. I know Commissioner Gore, you already have, I have, for Serve DC to shovel snow. I will just tell you that I was at their headquarters, at their offices in Anacostia today, met the head of the program. Trey Kenny, who's a tremendous guy in the Army Reserve, just came back from Jordan, and met their team there. And I will tell you that they were incredibly generous. They gave me a snowblower.
Oh,
And
That's awesome.
I had a long conversation with Trey on Saturday. I put it in my newsletter. I didn't go into all the details there, telling him about the neighbors here that need support, elderly, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And just, you know, one thing led to another, and he very kindly offered a snowblower. It is an electric snowblower, so with rechargeable batteries. And I haven't charged them yet. It's in the car. I got to figure it out, read the owner's manual yet tonight, plug in the batteries, yada, yada, yada. but gave me some nice merch as well and some salt, and they're very generous. So as part of reaching out, you guys all know this, right? Reaching out to the DC government, you meet some amazing people and they're really committed to what they're doing. So the volunteer thing, I've made a big pitch to my people. He told me also that in all of Ward 4, they only have 30 to 40 volunteers to shovel snow. So don't think that if you call, they're going to come running quickly because they're just maxed out. They're just all over the place. And we saw this in the results on the survey we ran, the comments about neighbors being upset with other neighbors who don't shovel snow. It's a big issue I know it's a big issue across the ANC. And I'm really working on that with my people to get them to volunteer for neighbors and shovel and all that. So anyway, that's all coming, but I just want to salute those guys and endorse volunteering.
Well, that's awesome. That's the good news story of the night. And I saw that they were meeting. I'm so glad that you went out there. I can tell you Commissioner Goslin is probably a resident expert also on snow blowers. He just got, I think, a new one he's sharing with the neighbor. And, one of the things too, just going back to Transportation Committee and something that I received from a neighbor in Chevy Chase Chatter on Facebook are those locations that are not homes, like around our bus stops, sidewalks where the curb cuts are, and national park space. Maybe we could also include that in our ask. Definitely, I would say, those bus stops, they were in terrible shape. But yeah, thank you for bringing all that up. Really important. Okay, so Commissioner Simmons, did you have anything on the treasurer's report that we hadn't?
I do. And I'll be practice brevity. It's like bedtime, and I would like to request for this please to be in the minutes. But for our January monthly report, we have $64,000, 64,116 and 98 cents. I sent that report over to you all. We had only a $28 expense and about 4,800 in an allotment. I would like to make a motion for us to approve the fiscal year 25 quarter one report. That includes October 24, November 24, December 24. I provided that report to everyone. We had about 2,900 in expenses. So is there a second on my motion?
Second.
Commissioner.
It's accepted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need to vote now?
Yeah. So commissioners, all those in favor of approving the first quarter FY25 report, please raise your hand. Okay. 6-0.
Thank you. So Lisa and Liz, I will send that to you tomorrow. I have to go to work, so it's bedtime for me for your signature. So I think that's then.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you. And that definitely will be in the report because that's a requirement. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And with that, so our next meeting will be on the 24th, 6:30 virtual. On the agenda, possible vote on ANC budget request letter. So this is the next set of oversight testimony, Office of Planning, Office of Zoning, and WMATA. Possible vote and discussion on the DC bottle bill and resolution. I keep Civic Core and the RFP on the ongoing discussion, so we can always keep that in mind. But if we get an update, hopefully we can have that on there. Still, we have Commissioner Grunwald's suggestion of a presentation by Mopers. We should try to get that organized. Also, presentation potentially Chevy Chase Main Street, and definitely a presentation on lead pipe replacement project. Commissioner Fennessy.
And I'll probably just mention, but maybe not go into detail this time, but we should have some information from the February 20th Zoom. So but I think given how much time I had tonight, maybe I can just mention it and have it posted on the OneDrive, or I'll talk to you about how to get it posted.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks. Commissioner Nagy?
Yeah, I just have a very quick thing to tell people, which is that I spoke to Emmanuel Briggs today, because the detailed list that I had asked them for and that they provided, and I'm sorry that Corinthia dropped off and Peter's not here, but I'll mention this to them. I'll send them an email about it. I did talk to him because that list comes to a close on February 14th. So I've asked them for an updated list, and he has promised to get that to us sometime this week. So we'll be able to post it, disseminate it the same way we did the last time, I presume. This is for the sewers. This is for the sewer project.
Got it. Okay.
And Commissioner Gore, really quickly, you and I are going to work on that Bottle Bill Community Zoom. So that's, yeah, I had shot you a note about the 18th as another date that Stephanie Miller can do. Are you good on the 18th?
Yeah, I think I responded to
Maybe
that.
you didn't, I didn't see it, but I'll go ahead and tee that up and copy you in with Stephanie and then set the wheels in motion on that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Bruce,
Thank
will you let everyone know about that?
Oh,
Because
totally.
I have
Yeah. I'm just
yeah,
talking.
because I have folks in my SMD who are very interested in this bottle bill.
Yeah. And we'll publicize that as a community Zoom as a prelude, as I've said, to an actual meeting, though, when we come up and
Okay.
the commission can
Yeah.
hear Stephanie. But
Perfect.
yeah, it gives
Perfect.
people.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, folks, it's 10:16. Call the meeting adjourned. Good night, Laura.
Wow, it's only what time?
10:16.